Okay, good morning. Welcome back. Any questions or comments from yesterday? Yes?
Uh, yeah, I did got went down a rabbit hole about Ulysses. And it's rife in the academic sources about like nobody really agrees on what Ulysses is doing in there and why. All academics seem to be contingent on this. Um, he's in the realm of false counselors, and he went on the boat trip and convinced his men we need to go to the end of the world. And he gave false counsel to them, but it's just a boatload of men. There's no reason why giving false counsel to 50 people would end him in this level of hell. And when the few places that they seem to be in agreement on is that through Homer and then Virgil's Aeneid and then Dante's Inferno, he ends up to Dante himself. He's essentially giving counsel to the ages on go beyond your means. Have this, what is it? Um, this godlike pride to go beyond God's limits, like what Adam ends up doing. Um, and some academics have him as like he's suffering for Dante's sins because Dante has this arrogance that you keep speaking about,
Yeah.
and so they find certain points in the canto to really point that out. But I thought it was important because I had a college professor who spoke about Lord Alfred Tennyson's poem on Ulysses,
Right.
and it finishes with Ulysses is an old man, and he's sitting with his son Telemachus, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sad." And the final line is, "I'm made weak by time and fate, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield." And Tennyson is essentially doing what Homer has done, which is like maybe there's some nobility in both, but you're sitting next to your son who you've abandoned your whole life, man.
Yep.
Like appreciate your son and quit going on out. And um, this college professor brought it up because that final quote would be on pictures on students' walls with like the moon landing and stuff, and students were like, "Yeah, get it? Like always go out, go beyond your means, be Victor Frankenstein." And he's like, humanity's taking the wrong message that everybody has been trying to tell us now, and so it's effective. Dante puts him there because he essentially is a false counselor to all of humanity up till today.
Right. Okay. All right. So that's really interesting. So let me make some comments. First of all, Ulysses is there where he has been punished, not because he sailed away from his family. It's because of the Trojan horse, right? So he counseled the Greeks to devise the Trojan horse. And that's what he's punished for. And that's pretty explicit in the Divine Comedy. That's point one. Okay? Not for misleading his men to their deaths, but for advising the Greeks to use the Trojan horse, which destroyed Troy, and they are the ancestors to the Romans. That's point one. Point two is like what we need to remember is that at this time in history, Dante does not have access to Homer. He knows Ulysses through the Iliad, because in the Iliad it says explicitly that Ulysses advised the Greeks on the Trojan horse, him and Diomedes, and that's why they're suffering together. Point three is that if you actually read Homer's Odyssey, it's a very different take on Odysseus. I've taught the Odyssey, and the Odyssey is ultimately not about a journey outward, but a journey home to his family. And he comes home and he realizes that what really matters is family, and it's a family reunion. So it goes counter. It's really interesting, but it goes counter to the popular Western narrative that Ulysses, he is a romantic wanderer or explorer. What I should have done is actually taught Homer, then taught Virgil, then taught Dante, because it's a straight legacy. Okay, Virgil is responding to Homer, and then Dante is responding to Virgil. And what's really interesting is that Dante never read Homer, because at this time you can't access the Greek. But Homer and Dante agree on everything. So it's almost like Dante's the second coming of Homer. So it's really interesting that way.
May,
Okay. Yes.
Maybe Virgil intentionally tried to make Homer and the Odyssey look bad because he wanted to kill the Greek culture, right? So he wanted to replace it with the Roman culture, and so he talks bad about the Odyssey and
Exactly. And this is something we'll go more into later on. But remember from last class, we talked about how the counterfeiter was arguing with Sinon, the man who tricked the Trojans into letting the Trojan horse. They were arguing who is worse. And it was Virgil who created Saint Sinon, right? So basically, if you think about it, if you just use your imagination, there's a counterfeiting of coin, and then there's a counterfeiting of poetry, right? So what he's really saying is, okay, Master, I'm saying to Sinon, hey, maybe I counterfeited coin, but you counterfeited someone's poetry. You plagiarized someone's poetry. Isn't that much worse than counterfeiting coins? Because at this time in history, remember, counterfeiting coins is a really serious crime, especially in Florence, because they're very proud of their currency, which is considered pure gold, right? So we'll go back that section, but yeah, that's a good point. Okay, any more points? Yes.
So last night I was reading a journal entry by Manly P. Hall,
Right. Yes.
and it's just
They're
his,
cultists.
yeah, and it's his commentary on the Divine Comedy. And what I thought was interesting, relating to the question we discussed towards the end of class about why is hell frozen and it's not moving, is he separately, not related to that question, says, and I quote, "Motional desire or restlessness is the unsatisfied impulse of all creation to reach identity with the divine. Motion must continue until no interval remains between consciousness and the infinite." And then a few sentences later says, "Man is the self moved by the power of will and desire." So if we think of then hell again, if there's no movement and it's all frozen, then surely that implies that it's because we're so deep in the inferno that there is so little will and desire, and you're so far from connecting with the divine.
Yeah, exactly. They basically given up on themselves, right? So it's really interesting, and I'll point out that occultists do read Divine Comedy literally. Like they really believe that Dante had a near-death experience, or he had visions of the afterlife, and they do take him literally. And today we will go into demonic possession, which is something that they're really concerned about, right? Is it possible to be possessed by angels and demons? And Dante refers to this in Inferno, and we'll discuss this in depth, okay? But yeah, the occult is really important idea. Occultists love Dante. Yes?
Yeah, so yesterday I thought more about the Dante putting people who hijack our imagination lower than people who murder someone. And
or commit genocide, right? Alexander the Great committed genocide, and yes.
And so what I don't understand is that does murdering not kill someone's entire capacity to imagine anything, because you can't imagine if you're in hell or in paradise, right? Like you can't, because you don't have a body and you don't have worldly experiences, so you can't imagine at all. And if you hijack the imagination, okay, but you can still get your imagination back if it's hijacked, right? But you can't get it back if you're dead.
Yeah.
So does a follow-up question would be if Dante believes in reincarnation, maybe, so that's a solution to that.
Okay. Yeah. So Dante does say there's reincarnation in paradise when Beatrice is talking to him and saying, "Look, your souls are immortal." Right, that's explicit in Divine Comedy. Your souls are mortal. So Dante does believe in the in the immortality of the soul. But to answer your question, what's really important to understand is that for Dante, hell, earth, and heaven correspond with each other. And what's really important is to maintain the dynamic creativity of the universe. Basically maintain our capacity to imagine, okay? Because that's a life force of the universe. And when you reduce people from the world, that doesn't necessarily reduce the imaginative life force from the world, because it's possible that a few people have the imagination, right? So Dante is very imaginative, and he's able to change society through his imagination. So one person, as long as this one person maintains his capacity for imagination, the entire universe still revolves, okay? It still moves. The problem with counterfeiting or hijacking the imagination is that you're reducing the universe's overall capacity to be imaginative. Okay, does that make sense? So this is a counterintuitive idea, but what matters is not the sum total of life in the universe. What matters is a sum total of imagination in the universe. And when you counterfeit the imagination and disrupt the connection between humanity and the divine, then that reduces the overall imagination in the universe, and therefore it reduces the total life force in the universe. Yes?
So if Dante would have been killed, then there would have been another Dante at some point, probably.
Exactly. I think that's what Dante would say. But at the same time, and he's explicit about this, right? He is on a divine mission, right? In hell, he doesn't have to fear the demons. He doesn't have to fear anything, because God has willed it, right? So when he wrote the Divine Comedy, he's like, I don't fear dying halfway and not completing the Divine Comedy. I don't fear my manuscript being burned. I don't fear being burnt the script, because God has willed it. You understand? And it's this complete faith that allows him to access the divine and complete the Divine Comedy. That's something that Manning Hall would say as well, right? Okay. Yes?
What was it that allowed Farinata to imagine that his son was dead? In that, if the Satan frozen in the bottom of the hell cannot imagine anything, what mechanism was it that allowed Farinata to... Because I remember that he says that he cannot notice things that are close to them, but can sense things that are long past or long to come. If in hell imagination is stripped away, what mechanism did Dante leverage to get Farinata to believe that Guido was dead?
Right, that's a really good point. Okay, so this is a really hard question, and I'll try my best. But I think there's a difference between the imagination and the emotion. Okay, the emotion is your connection with other people. You're longing for your son. You're longing for your wife. You're longing for God. Okay, and the emotion can never be extinguished because it's tied to the soul. So even though Farinata doesn't have the capacity to imagine, he does have the capacity to long for his son, right? And that's why when Dante said to him, your son is burning in hell, it's so anguishing for Farinata, because, no, it was not Farinata, it's Cavalcante, okay? It's Cavalcante, and he lacks the imagination to think that Dante could be lying, okay? Here in hell, it's not possible for the souls to imagine that others could be deceiving them. And so he falls into tremendous anguish. Okay, does that make sense? There's a difference between the imagination and the emotion, love, right? Love is the unifying force of the universe. The imagination is the animating force of the universe. And the imagination is unique to us. And the imagination is only available to those with a body. Okay? All right. So good question. And again, like, scholars have been debating these questions for hundreds of years, literally. Okay, you're gonna find like hundreds of different commentaries online about Dante. So all we're doing is we're speculating here. Okay. Any more? This is great, by the way. Yes.
So it's got me thinking, because everybody in hell doesn't want to be in hell. So there's a difference between imagination and desire. They all desire for it to stop, or is there something going on there?
Well, if you remember, when they are crossing the Acheron River to go into hell, they desire it. I mean, Dante's explicit here. Remember the word desire, right? And Dante's surprised by this. Like, why are people desiring to go to hell? And the only reason why is they think they deserve it. They think it's a release from whatever sin they've done. And something that we'll discuss later on, where if you think that demonic possession is possible, right, then you also have to think that interdimensional travel is possible. You have to think that the soul can exist in different dimensions. And when you do anything, whether it's virtuous or whether it's sinful, your sin can trespass into other dimensions. Okay, so like when you do something sinful, your soul is now locked in hell in a certain place, and that's what Dante is suggesting here. Where if you think about it, okay, the person commits a sin of lust, and now he's in the plane of lust. Are you saying that's the only sin he committed? Are you saying he did nothing else with his life? But what I think Dante is suggesting is like the sin, it corrupts a soul in a certain way so that the soul is trapped in a certain plane of hell. But to understand that, you need to also believe in the infinite dimensions of the soul and the fact that the soul exists across infinite dimensions. And whatever you do, the soul becomes more anchored in a certain dimension, if that makes any sense. Okay? And again, if you read many Hall in the Occultist, he does go into this. Okay? Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, let's continue, please. Okay? We're at Canto 32.
Line 25. The Danube, where it flows in Austria, the dawn beneath its frozen sky, have never made for their course to so thick a veil in winter as there was here. For had Mount Tabernic or Pietrapanus mountain crashed upon it, not even at the edge would it have creaked. And as the croaking frog sits with its muzzle about the water in the season when the peasant woman often dreams of gleaning, so livid in the ice, up to the place where shame can show itself, were those sad shades whose teeth were chattering with note like storks. Each kept his face bent downward steadily. Their mouths bore witness to the cold they felt, just as their eyes proclaimed their sorry hearts. When I had looked around a while, my eyes turned toward my feet and saw two locked so close the hair upon their heads had intermingled. Do tell me, you whose chests are pressed so tight, I said, who are you? They bent back their necks, and when they lifted up their faces toward me, their eyes, which wept upon the ground before, shed tears down on their lips until the cold held fast the tears and locked their lids still more. No clamp has ever fastened plank to plank so tightly, and because of this they butted each other like two rams, such was their fury. And one from whom the cold had taken both his ears, who kept his face bent low, then said, why do you keep on staring so at us? If you would like to know who these two are, that valley where Vicenzio descends belonged to them and to their father, Alberto. They came out of one body, and you can search all Caina. You'll never find a shade more fit to sit within this ice. Not him who, at one blow, had chest and shadow shattered by Arthur's hand, and not Boccaccia, and not the sinner here who so impedes my vision with his head. I can't see past him. His name was Sassol Mascaroni. If you're Tuscan now, you know who he has been. Unless you keep me talking any longer, know that I was Commission de Pazzi. I'm waiting for Carlino to absolve me. And after that I saw 1,000 faces made dog-like by the cold, for which I shudder, and always will when I face frozen fords. And while we were advancing toward the center to which all weight is drawn, I, shivering in that eternal cold shadow, I know not if it was will or destiny or chance. But as I walked among the heads, I struck my foot hard in the face of one. Weeping, he chided them, why trample me if you've not come to add to the revenge of Monteperti? Why do you molest me? And I, my master, now wait here for me, that I may clear up just one doubt about him, then you can make me hurry as you will. My guide stood fast, and I went on to ask of him, who still was cursing bitterly. Who are you that rebukes another so? And who are you who go through Antenora striking the cheeks of others? He replied, too roughly, even if you were alive. I am alive and can be precious to you if you want fame, was my reply, for I can set your name among my other notes. And he to me, I want the contrary, so go away and do not harass me. Your flattery is useless in this valley. At that I grabbed him by the scruff and said, you'll have to name yourself to me or else you won't have even one hair left up here. And he to me, though you should strip me bald, I shall not tell you who I am or show it, not if you pound my head 1,000 times. His hairs were wound around my hand already, and I had plucked from him more than one tuft while he was barking and his eyes stared down, when someone else cried out, what is it, Baka? Isn't the music of your jaws enough for you without your bark? What devil's at you? And now I said, you traitor bent on evil, I do not need your talk, for I shall carry true news of you, and that will bring you shame. Be off, he answered. Tell them who you like, but don't be silent if you make it back about the one whose tongue was now so quick. Here he laments the silver of the Frenchman. I saw, you then can say, him of Duera, down there where all the sinners are kept cool. And if you asked who else was there in ice, one of the Beccaria, and beside you he had his gullet sliced right through by Florence. Gianni de Sodanieri, I believe, lies there with Ganelon and Tabeldello, he who unlocked Faenza while it slept. We had already taken leave of him when I saw 2 shades frozen in one hole, so that one once had served as the other's cap, and just as he who's hungry chews his bread, one sinner dug his teeth into the other right at the place where brain is joined to nape. No differently had Titius gnawed the temples of Menelaus out of indignation than this one chewed the skull and other parts. O you who show with such bestial sign your hatred for the one on whom you feed, tell me the cause, I said. We can agree that if you quarrel with him is justified, then knowing who you are and what's his sin, I shall repay you yet on earth above, if that with which I speak does not dry up.
Okay, all right. So we are in the final circle of hell, and it's a completely frozen lake where everyone is submerged in the lake and just freezing. They can't move. They can only feel pain. And there are also divisions within this lake, and they're given different names, and they are ranked according to what they betrayed, okay? So at the outer layer, there's the betrayal of family. So basically 2 brothers who killed each other, okay? Betrayal of family. Okay? Then as you go further down, there is the betrayal of country. Okay? So the example is Bocca. And who is Bocca? Bocca is someone who fought for the Florentines with Dante, but he was not loyal to the Florentines, and at a battle, a crucial battle between the Guelphs and the Ghibellines, he betrayed the Guelphs by cutting off the hand of the standard bearer, okay? The standard bearer, if you know your medieval battles, the standard bearer is essentially like capture the flag or the king in the game of chess, right? The standard bearer is what gives direction, hope, and focus to the army. So this caused the Guelphs to lose a major battle, okay? And that's why Bocca is being punished. And Dante recognizes him and demands that he speak up. Bocca's like, no, I'd rather be forgotten, okay? So lower down is the betrayal of country. Then you have the betrayal of friends. And then you have the betrayal of guests. Okay? So again, the thing with Divine Comedy is it's full of paradoxes. And if you actually look at this, you would think that it would be the opposite, right? Like betrayal of guests would be the least punished, and the most punished would be betrayal of family, because family is tied together by blood. So what's going on here? Why would Dante construct his ninth circle of treachery in such a manner? Okay, what's the criteria that he's using to judge the sin? Yes?
I think it's about how it reflects to the universe. So if you betray a family, it only concerns yours, whereas a guest can really concern anyone on earth. And
Yes.
so it disrupts trust.
Yes, thank you. Yes?
I think in the Middle East as well, like in Iran or like in Israel, I guess, to treat a guest, you have to put up the best hospitality. It's because it's stranger. I think it's underlying the same principle.
Colin?
Well, I think you have a great idea, but I'm not sure if that was the case. I feel like friends would be a smaller circle than country, and so those two circles would be the opposite. And so maybe we could work that into the new theory.
You will, right? You choose
Yes.
because you don't choose your family. You might not even choose the country
Yes.
you're born on, but you choose your friends and you invite your guests.
Exactly. Yes.
I think I like the reflection idea, and it's about what is contrary to the nature of the universe. And as humans with bodies, we are guests. So he's asking, what would God really never do? Of course, he would never betray these other groups, but they are all subsumed within the group of guests under God. So it's really the major violence against God is against guests.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah. So I think everyone's right, okay? So to summarize, it's the idea that we have responsibility to protect love and the imagination in the universe, okay? Without love, there can be no imagination. Love is based on trust. So the more trust you create in the universe, the greater the capacity for love in the universe, therefore the greater capacity for imagination. Again, the idea of free will, where we all have a choice whether or not to enter in a contract, right? The idea of a social contract. We choose to enter a social contract. And what's really important is to honor those social contract. The thing about family is you don't choose to enter in a social contract. You're just stuck with a family, okay? You don't choose your country. You're stuck with your country. But you do choose your friends, and you do choose who to invite into your household, okay? And also, what's really important is the idea of guests. Like the iron law of most society is to treat guests with hospitality. This is true for most of human history, not just the Middle East, okay? Anywhere in the world. Okay? You don't really appreciate this, but at this time, if a stranger comes from far away, you have an urgent responsibility to treat him with the most utmost respect, okay? Nowadays, you're like, whoa, immigrants, let's kill immigrants. No, no, no. Immigration for most of human history was really rare. And what was much common was just the traveler, right? And so if you saw a traveler, you had to treat that person with utmost respect and hospitality. And the reason why is, well, if you kill that person, then no one could ever travel, right? No one could ever explore. And in the Greek mythology, in the Greek society, what they believed that every guest could potentially be a god in disguise. So to kill a guest would be to upset the gods themselves, okay? And so, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah. So what's then even worse probably is that if you're a guest, you disrespect the host, because that's what Paris, for example, did when he was a guest in Greece and then he stole Helen, or when the Greeks were basically guests in Troy and then they destroyed Troy.
Yes, exactly. Yes. That's a really special case. This is something I never really thought about, where the guest purposefully betrays the host. But that's a great question for us to think about. And this is something that if Dante knew about, he would definitely put Paris in here as well. Yeah, that's a really great comment. But does this make sense to you guys? Okay? Unless you have trust, society cannot function at all, right? I mean, think about how you like for example, the most basic thing is you often settle disputes, right? If there's a war going on, you would invite the opposing general for a dinner, right? And like if you just kill the general, like there could be no reconciliation, there could be no mediation, right? So this idea of like honoring guests, it's an iron law throughout all human society. Okay, it's true in China, it's true everywhere. right? And the reason why is that if you didn't have this law, society just could not function. Okay, there could be no basis for any contract. Okay, all right, so that's what's going on here. All right, let's keep on going.
Canto 33. That sinner raised his mouth from his fierce meal, then used the head that he had ripped apart and back. He wiped his lips upon its hair. Then he began, "You want me to renew despairing pain that presses at my heart, even as I think back before I speak? But if my words are seed from which the fruit is infamy for this betrayer whom I gnaw, you'll see me speak and weep at once. I don't know who you are or in what may you've come down here, and yet you surely seem, for what I hear, to be Florentine. You're to know I was Count Ugolino, and this one here, Archbishop Ruggieri. And now I'll tell you why I'm his neighbor. There's no need to tell you that because of his malicious tricks I first was taken, then was killed, since I had trusted him. However, that which you cannot have heard, that is the cruel death devised for me, you now shall hear and know if he has wronged me. A narrow window in the Eagle's Tower, which now through me is called the Hunger Tower, a cage in which still others will be locked, had through its opening already showed me several moons, when I dreamed that bad dream which rent the curtain of the future for me. This man appeared to me as Lord and Master. He hunted down the wolf and its young whelps upon the mountain that prevents the Pisans from seeing Lucca. And with lean and keen and practiced hounds, he sent up front before him Gualandi and Sismondi and Lanfranchi. But after a brief course, it seemed to me that both the father and the sons were weary. I seemed to see their flanks torn by sharp fangs. When I awoke at daybreak, I could hear my sons, who were together with me there, weeping within their sleep, asking for bread. You would be cruel indeed if, thinking what my heart foresaw, you don't already grieve. And if you don't weep now, when would you weep? They were awake by now. The hour drew near at which our food was usually brought, and each, because of what he dreamed, was anxious. Below, I heard them nailing up the door of that appalling tower without a word. I looked into the faces of my sons. I did not weep. Within, I turned to stone. They wept, and my poor little Anselm said, "Father, you look so. What is wrong with you?" At that I shed no tears, and all day long and through the night that followed did not answer until another sun had touched the world. As soon as a thin ray had made its way into that sorry prison, and I saw reflected in 4 faces my own gaze, out of my grief I bit at both my hands, and they who thought I'd done that out of hunger immediately rose and told me, "Father, it would be far less painful for us if you ate of us, for you clothed us in this sad flesh. It is for you to strip it off." Then I grew calm to keep them from more sadness. Through that day and the next we all were silent. O hard earth, why did you not open up? But after we had reached the 4th day, Gatto, throwing himself outstretched down at my feet, implored me, "Father, why do you not help me?" And there he died, and just as you see me, I saw the other 3 fall one by one between the 5th and the 6th, at which, now blind, I started groping over each. And after they were dead, I called them for 2 days, then fasting had more force than grief.
Okay. All right. So the story is, at this time in history, Count Ugolino is one of the most famous Italians. He is a great military strategist of Pisa. And eventually, because he is so ambitious, he's a very Machiavellian figure, he will change alliances always. And then he falls into alliance with the archbishop, who then betrays him in order to obtain more power for himself. What the archbishop does is that he locks him and his children, his sons, into a cell and throws away the key. They don't know this, but no one's coming to them and giving them food, so they're just starving to death. And the urban legend is that Count Ugolino cannibalized his children in order to keep himself alive. First of all, we discussed the idea of symmetry in the Divine Comedy, okay? Do you guys know? And this is like the second last canto, the penultimate canto, right? What is the penultimate canto in Paradise that mirrors this? Do you guys remember? And that's what's brilliant about Dante. He's always doing symmetry in order to excite your imagination. So here, this is the father cannibalizing his children. You guys remember in the penultimate canto of Paradise, what the issue was there? What they were talking about in the penultimate canto of Paradise, basically Paradise 32. What did we spend a lot of time discussing?
Like the babies in heaven.
Yes, do you see the symmetry here, right? And we back then Bernard was telling Dante why is it that in the seat of in the red rose right beside God you have the greatest matriarchs in history, Eve, Mary, and Rachel, and Ruth, but you also had babies. And Dante's like, wait a minute, I thought Virgil told me babies were all in limbo. But you had these babies, and we decided that it was because of the unconditional love of parents, right? If a baby died, if a parent committed himself to unconditional love, praying to God, committed to good works, that effort would allow the child to ascend to the Imperium. And here we have the complete opposite, right? It's an opposite. It's an inverse where the father is cannibalizing his sons in order to survive. Okay, so that's the beauty of the Divine Comedy. You will find the symmetry everywhere. Okay, all right. So what is going on here? Why is Count Ugolino biting on the Archbishop, and why are they frozen in place? And why is this happening for all of eternity? Yes?
I guess in the simple sense, he's just trying to exact an appropriate revenge, and that this desire, which is still present in hell, will just continue forever.
Why are they in a frozen lake?
Because they have no imagination to move them towards anything other than what they desire.
Yes?
Could it be that they've thrown away their free will? Because I'll find the line. But he's basically asking, Father, why don't you help me? Implying that he's looking for that external help rather than earlier on we spoke about how you can, through your own free will, help yourself.
Yes. Any other comments or thoughts? Yes?
And also, like, betrayal kind of freezes your relationship with the others, and then, like, the others will also, like, no longer trust anyone because of these sorts of, like, betrayal.
Yes.
So, like, you are also freeze in a lake yourself after you betray the others.
Yes. Exactly. Any more? Okay. Yeah, exactly, right? They're in a frozen lake. These are frozen literally in time, right? All they remember is the betrayal and their thirst for revenge, the hatred. Okay, and the punishment is apt because just as the Archbishop's betrayal forced the Count to betray his sons and cannibalize his sons, now the Count is cannibalizing the Archbishop. But it's all futile because they're all in hell. But he doesn't care because he's stuck in that moment. Okay, he's not actually considering the absurdity of the situation. He's just stuck in that moment. And that's the idea of frozen lake, okay? That's why hell, at the very bottom, everyone is a frozen lake because the treachery has frozen them in that moment of treachery, and they can never escape out of it. And they lack the capacity to have free will, to have the love, the imagination, to think beyond this moment of betrayal. All they focus on is, how do I get back at this person for the betrayal, okay? And that's why betrayal is the worst punishment, because the universe moves and betrayal, treachery, freezes the universe in place. Okay, it reduces the capacity for imagination. Okay, does that make sense? Great. All right, let's keep on going. This is the very last. Oh yeah, sorry. Keep on going.
Okay.
We're not finished this yet.
Line 76. When he had spoken this with eyes awry, again he gripped the sad skull in his teeth, which like a dog's were strong down to the bone. Ah, Pisa, you the scandal of the peoples of that fair land where sea is heard because your neighbors are so slow to punish you. May then Caprara and Gorgona move and build a hedge across the Arno's mouth so that you may drown every soul in you. For if Count Ugolino was reputed to have betrayed your fortresses, there was no need to have his sons endure such torment. O thieves renewed, their years were innocent and young, Brigata, Uguccione, and the other two my song has named above. We passed beyond where frozen water wraps a rugged covering still other sinners who were not bent, but flat upon their backs.
So Dante is moved by the story, and he's upset about what? What about the story really upsets him and makes him very confused? Yes?
That Count Ugolino was forced to sin. And why would someone be punished in exactly the same way if they didn't instigate the betrayal?
Okay, so he thinks that Count Ugolino got what he deserved because he did betray Pisa, and the peasants were angry at this, okay? But there's a problem here, yes?
I think maybe the problem is that Count Ugolino's sons were actually tortured in the same way.
Yeah, why are
though...
the sons in prison? The sons did nothing wrong. First of all, why are the sons in prison?
I believe it's to torture Count Ugolino, but I don't understand why they were subject to the same torture as Ugolino did.
Okay, yeah. So, but this is just a historical question, right? Why are children being punished along with the fathers? Yes.
Presumably, they would grow up and try and exact vengeance in the real world.
Exactly, right? This is true for most cultures at this time. If you kill the father, you have to kill the sons as well, because now the sons are morally obligated to avenge the father. Okay? And so Don is like saying this is unjust. Okay? And what he's saying is like, we have to remember, we have to have faith that there are higher laws of justice that govern us. And to punish the sons with the father, yes, I understand the logic. I understand that it's necessary because you want to avoid wars, right? Because at this time in history, family feuds are a real thing. Okay? But he says, I understand all this, but it's still unjust. Okay? And again, at this time in history, it's pretty revolutionary. You guys know the story of Romeo and Juliet, right? Well, it's this time, okay? The Montagues and the Capulets, it is this time. These Italian city-states in Verona, right? These feuds, these family feuds that go on for generations. Okay, it is this time in history. Okay, let's keep on going.
Line 94. Their very weeping there won't let them weep, and grief that finds a berry in their eyes turns inward to increase their agony, because their first tears freeze into a cluster, and like a crystal visor fill up all the hollow that is underneath the eyebrow. And though because of cold my every sense had left its dwelling in my face, just as a callus has no feeling, nonetheless I seemed to feel some wind now, and I said, my master who has set this gust in motion, for isn't every vapor quenched down here? And he to me, you soon shall be where your own eye will answer that when you shall see the reason why this wind blasts from above. And one of those sad sinners in the cold crust cried to us, O souls who are so cruel that this last place has been assigned to you, take off the hard veils from my face so that I can release the suffering that fills my heart before lament freezes again. To which I answered, if you'd have me help you, then tell me who you are. If I don't free you, may I go to the bottom of the ice? He answered then, I'm Fra Alberigo, the one who tended fruits in a bad garden, and here my figs have been repaid with dates. But then I said, are you already dead? And he to me, I have no knowledge of my body's fate within the world above, for Ptolemy has this privilege. Quite frequently the soul falls here before it has been thrust away by Atropos, and that you may with much more willingness scrape these glazed tears from off my face, know this. As soon as any soul becomes a traitor, as what I was, then a demon takes its body away and keeps that body in its power until its years have run their course completely. The soul falls headlong down into the cistern, and up above perhaps there still appears the body of the shade that winters here behind me. You must know him. If you've just come down, he is Ser Brancadoria. For many years he has been thus pent up. I said to him, I think that you deceive me, for Brancadori is not yet dead. He eats and drinks and sleeps and puts on clothes. There in the Malebranche's ditch above, where sticky pitch boils up, Michele Zanche had still not come, he said to me, when this one, together with a kinsman who had done the treachery together with him, left a devil in his stead instead his body. But now reach out your hand, open my eyes, and yet I did not open them for him, and it was courtesy to show him rudeness. Ah, Genoese, a people strange to every constraint of custom, full of all corruption, why have you not been driven from the world? For with the foulest spirit of Romagna, I found one of you such that, for his acts, in soul he bathes already in Cocytus, and up above appears alive in body.
Okay, so we have met the worst offenders, okay? These are people who betrayed their guests. They invite their guests to dinner, and now they're protected by the laws of hospitality, right? But they don't care, they betray their guests. And the moment they do that, what happens is their sin is so bad, they are automatically, their souls are taken down to the ninth circle. They are trapped in the frozen lake, and the demon takes possession of their body. Okay? And the example here is Brancadoria. And Dante actually knows this person. And Dante knows this person is alive. And he's saying that now a demon took over his body. Okay? So here's a question for you. Do you think demonic possession or angelic possession, is it real? Any thoughts? Any comments? And again, there are no right answers, but I'm curious as to what you think. Yes.
Well, if you grow up in Southeast Asia, in Malaysia, Singapore, there's voodoo magic, as we all know. In Africa, like if you grow up in these regions of the world, it's impossible for you to conceive that a ghost or demon cannot take possession of a human being because you see it all the time.
Wow.
Not all the time, but it's common sense.
Elaborate on this, because why is it that like in these societies you see ghosts and demons, but we don't?
Okay. I recently moved back.
But okay, so because I think it's because of the religion of the local people, this kind of magical practices is a lot, especially in Malays, right? Like there's a thing like if you dig out a dead man's body and you take some liquid from his jar and you can make it into love potion. The most common one everybody knows in Malaysia. It's like a thing, okay? Like yeah. And so like yeah. So then you can make the man fall in love with you or women, and that's common practice. And you can do a lot of these.
How does demonic possession work?
So in voodoo, it's like you do this spell and then you have this doll and then you stab it, right? And then like in Malaysia, or there are a lot. Like you ask this guy to come to your house, you pay him, and then to curse that guy, and then that. Yeah.
There's a whole cosmology. They have their own cosmology.
So what you're saying is, do you know about this? I don't know about this, but go ahead.
From Catholic worldview,
there is
Lydia in the Bible, or whoever, I forgot the lady's name, but like there are people who are possessed by demons, and Jesus had to cast it out. But like go to the pigs, and the pigs drown themselves. So in the Bible, it's very common. In Malaysia, it's very common. Africa.
Actually, speaking of, my husband and I have recently watched a Tucker Carlson podcast with a priest who is an exorcist.
Right.
And actually, it's in many cultures, it's actually an ongoing thing. And even in China, I've heard that, for example, in the Northeast, there are animal spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And also growing up in Hong Kong, under certain bridges, there are people doing voodoo stuff. You can pay someone to, let's say, stab a pin into a doll, or hit someone's effigy.
Okay. So voodoo is across cultures, basically.
Yeah, if you look at University of Hong Kong, there's a huge tomb, okay, in the library. Have you been to University of Hong Kong?
I have. I don't. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know about this.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
if you think out of all, like Hong Kong is such a epitome, of all these practices, feng shui and all that. But if you go to University of Hong Kong, there's a Li Jiacheng built for his wife, and the library look like a tomb, literally, to calm her spirit. So there's a lot of this kind of practices
Okay.
where
All
people
right. So
believe that.
so you guys believe in this stuff, but I'm saying like if you don't believe in this stuff, what are your objections to it? Who's like this can't possibly exist? Yes.
I think that when someone commits a sin that seems to have a character that is beyond their normal character, that there's a life force inside of the sin, it's easy and tempting to assume that there is a vortex of energy that creates consciousness that is separate from their own, that has come into them. But it just strikes me that this is cope. This is people who really don't want to accept that maybe someone they know, their friend or their family, could do a sin that was so out of character.
Okay. All right. That's very interesting. Okay. Let me ask you this question, okay? Did we have a... Okay. Let me ask you this question. Does anyone want to comment on how he or she has changed after reading the Divine Comedy? Like, we've spent the past week reading the Divine Comedy. We still have a few more days left. But does anyone want to reflect on how he or she has changed after encountering the Divine Comedy for the first time, after reading it, after thinking about it? Do you think you've changed as a person? Do you think? Yes?
I do believe that it can change people, because before that, maybe people thought, oh, I just cheat, I do whatever I can. Nobody will, get to know more about me, and I just hide myself. So, but after, the Divine Comedy, maybe some people saying can have confessions, and maybe some people think they're guilty, right? Because,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm not asking this as a thought experiment. I'm just asking, like, have you personally felt different after reading the Divine Comedy? Yes?
Yes, yes.
Can you
definitely.
explain this?
It's hard to put into words, but for me, especially after Paradiso, as well as in as we go through line by line the Divine Comedy, you can. It's for me. I feel like it's alluding to a larger truth, and it's making me more open to the fact that there are things beyond this universe that I don't really understand, because I'm an scientist, engineer by training. And then later on went into business, right? So it's quite, framework changing for me. I don't know how to put it.
Have you felt any physical changes to your body?
Like the first night, kind of like the first night, I think I mentioned this to some of our classmates. Like I found it hard to sleep. Actually, the first few nights, even Paradiso, right? Supposedly this good thing, but I found it hard to rest as per my usual routine. Mainly because I find all these imageries and all these things kind of kicking off thoughts in myself, right? Wondering about the nature of good and,
So these visions were appearing before you, and you're trying to wrestle with these visions. Okay, that's
similar
interesting.
to in hell, right? Like just you mentioned something about trying to square a circle, right? Like the fact that there's Muhammad in there, and there is things about sodomy and homosexuality, and like I find myself trying to answer questions that weren't there before, and like coming up with, oh, should I go talk to different people I know who are, so I don't know. I do think there is. I just don't know how to,
Okay, yes.
I feel like there's way more awareness and consciousness about the people we meet, the people we love, and the people who loved us. And I feel like, first of all, it's very tiring. So every time, like, even though we have 4 hours of class, I feel like super tired at the end, often take a nap. And also I felt in dreams, I thought of people that I forgot. And so you rethink about certain moments of your life and how it's linked to love.
Wow.
Especially.
Well, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. So you're expanding your consciousness, your connection to the cosmos. Right. Okay. Anyone else have?
This will sound extremely strange, but a lot of my lymph nodes started draining when I really studied the Divine Comedy. I think because my nervous system was really relaxing. and genuinely a lot of like waste product from my body was being expelled.
Wow. Okay, so you felt some physical changes. Okay. Anyone else? Yes?
Yeah, I kind of felt the same because I dreamed like a lot more frequently for these few days, and also like I kind of agree with what both of them said. I feel like I kind of re-examined my connection and relationship with the others, and then I kind of see like how it is so important to me that I have to cherish them, and also like at the same time I was kind of like an atheist before reading the Divine Comedy. Now I cannot say that I entirely believe that God exists, but I feel like I'm kind of like re-examining what I used to believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Any other? Yes.
Similar to the other classmates, I think dreams have been a bit different
Yes.
in the last few weeks. Like I remember on the first day we read the Divine Comedy, I had like quite a vivid nightmare, and I don't really have nightmares very often. The only way I can try and understand it, I think, is usually in day-to-day life we don't really think about morality very much and its effect on us or others, so we're kind of numbed. But obviously in the last week or so, yeah, it's everyday thinking about things we don't usually think about, and maybe raising the consciousness.
Okay, let me ask you this. Has anyone tried psychedelics in this class? Yes? Can you talk about your psychedelic experience? Well, first of all, what did you try?
Psychedelic mushrooms.
Okay,
So a couple of times last year. So it wasn't like extreme, but still like enough to feel like some extra forces. So it's really about same thing, like social awareness. So you feel like positive and negative energy when you feel happy and loved close to your friends, and you feel really insecure in some environment that's like negative.
So I want to confirm this, okay? Your psychedelic experience is very similar to you reading the Divine Comedy.
It could be, but like it's really hard to compare, and I think like you can't reach this level of awareness just by reading or meditation. Like it's really like physical, visual, and about love. Like it's really strong, and you can't like there's 100% chance you feel something with this experience, whereas by reading it's maybe like a couple percent, but a bit, but it's hard to compare. Like
I actually would differ on that because I've also done transcendental meditation when I was a child, and I had a similar experience with Jay, which is one night I had a vision. I haven't had a vision for a long time, since I was younger. So, and I've done other mind-opening things. So I would say they're different in every way. It's just that there's something precious or different about the reading and going through this journey.
Yeah. So my argument would be, well, that's because you have not fully read Divine Comedy, right? We're just scratching the surface. If you really commit to it, maybe it'd be similar. But did you want to share your experience?
Yeah, I have to agree with against you, or the end point of a lot of like mushroom trips, maybe less for LSD, is basically the message of this.
Yes.
Where like, imagine if this is crystal clear, your own revelations at the end of a trip are like slight flaws in a crystal. So it's your personality rewriting the truth that is contained here. And so it's very strange that when you really try to unlock your brain, this is the kind of message that you end up with.
Yeah, this is like really strange. Yeah. Let me ask you guys, let me ask you another question. Has anyone had an intense religious experience? Okay. Yes. Can you explain to us your intense religious experience? Just in your life, like when you go to church.
Yeah. There was definitely one. That's what made me actually converted to Christianity. So after I went to Malaysia when I was 12, I lived in a pastor's family, and just like 2 years after that, I wasn't convinced about Christianity. I was like, oh, it's cool. Bible stories are awesome. And then there was 1 month where I had nightmares every night, where I had this visits from hell, basically. And I'm afraid to go to bed every night because I know what's waiting for me in my dreams. There was nothing traumatic happening in my life. There was no exam stress. There was no, and then I was just terrified. And then my pastor, dad and mom were like, well, read the Bible verse out loud in your room and recite it. And that was the only night I didn't have nightmare. And the girl next to me, poor thing, she had a nightmare that was really gruesome. She said, didn't leave your room and come to my room now? I'm like, I'm so sorry. Maybe I shouldn't have read the Bible out loud. My bad. And then so that kind of really convinced me of like hell existed. And so I had to scream the name of Jesus to get out of that nightmare. And then from that whole month of torture is over. Like if anybody swear to me, like, oh, there's no God in the world, I'm like, fuck you, like come to my life, be in that month, and then like explain to me why is there all these crazy things that just make me not being able to not believe there's no spiritual world.
So let me confirm what you're saying. You're in Malaysia, and there's a lot of voodoo magic in Malaysia, so it's possible there are lots of these spirits roaming around.
Yeah.
And these spirits were literally like knocking on your door. But once you found some incantations, like, some Bible verses, it changed your energy field as though to create a force field around you.
Of protection.
To protect you. That's
and I went to
interesting.
the next girl's room and she was like, Anna, I never had a nightmare ever in my life. And last night you didn't have the nightmare. I do now. I'm so sorry. Maybe, that ghost left me and went to your room. Sorry.
Okay. So then the question is, why does this happen? Why is it like when you read the Divine Comedy, you have these dreams? And why is it like even your body physically changes? Why? Yes?
I could see this as priming. So in psychology, there's something called priming where you put something into your mind. And so to have these words by reading about love, will, and hope, it like just... So you have these words, and so in every interaction you have, you think of this. And so it really changed what you're talking, because like if you just read about love and then you're talking to your mother, then obviously you're going to think about this. And so this is how it changes, like the aspect about priming, putting words into your head and then always associating with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. This is what a psychologist would tell you. It's all priming, right? Because they've done experiments where if in the morning, what you do is you get some sunlight and you put on some really nice music, you feel better about yourself and you have a nicer day. Whereas if you don't go outside and you put on some really sad music, you're gonna have a really bad day. Okay, so a lot of it is priming, a lot of it's self-perception. Okay. Yes.
I loved having that conversation with her. We actually had a previous conversation in the elevator, which probably primed our later comment about music.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, when I had the recent vision, it reminded me of previous visions where it felt like a resonance with the universe, where I could see things in just a different dimension and different colors. And it's the resonance with the rest of the universe that doesn't happen all the time for a lot of reasons. But it's resonance, harmony, that concordance that kind of comes when there's a really powerful work of art or mind opening that's happening.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I understand that, but I'm trying to figure out the psychedelic experience. Then explain to me how psychedelics work. Then you explain how the Divine Comedy works. It's priming, yes, but how psychedelics?
So first of all, like psychedelics, what's different is that there's like 100% chance that it will change you, or like you will feel different. So it's often seen as a trip where like you basically lose your consciousness and everything you know or knew, and it basically makes you way more close to nature, where you forget the conception of like technology, money, possession. And so during a couple of hours, between like 4 to 8 hours, you just feel basically like an animal, where you rethink everything. You basically like, also you can't use your phone, right? Because like it's so not human that it changes you.
But no, I'm trying to figure out the neurological mechanism that allows for but just one last question, okay? What's a neurological mechanism? You've explained priming. How do you explain psychedelics?
I think it's like some molecule like psilocybin or like something like
Okay,
that.
yes.
I don't know.
I think you're referring to psilocin, which is the thing that breaks down from the mushrooms, but I think it all comes down to a molecule I think called tryptamine, which, so basically in your brain there's a molecule that constrains your perception. So imagine your eyes are seeing fractals all the time, and that your brain is basically organizing the sense data from those fractals into reality. And then if you boost a certain chemical a lot, you start to see the fractals that your brain is using to perceive reality. And this happens internally as well for your mind and being.
So if I extrapolate on what you're saying that reality itself is much more complex, much more vibrant, much more colorful than we could ever imagine.
Way, way more.
But and then what these psychedelics do is they basically cancel out your filter, so you see more of reality, right? But that's all that's saying is like maybe demons and angels actually do exist, right? Is that the possibility?
I don't want to say 100%, but you get that sense.
And so possession is also possible, right? Because the idea is they exist, they're floating around us, and depending on your mood, depending on your state of mind, they can come into you, they can leave you, right? Is that a possibility? Okay, so let me ask you this really weird question. Do any of you, while we're in the Divine Comedy, do you feel intuitively as though Dante has entered you? Do you think at some level Dante has taken possession of you? Sorry. You first, and then.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think I don't know why you come here to this classroom, but I do, because I think I just been excel. I just, I don't know. Just I think I'm out of the social system right now, just because maybe I do my part-time job, and I don't just always like other people to go to work all the day long. So maybe that make me feel like Dante. I just being driven away.
Right. I'm
from the mainstream.
I'm saying like
so maybe.
physically, Dante has taken. Yes.
I think so, but I'm lucky because I studied the Aeneid when I was 18 in Latin, just luckily.
Yes.
And I, for some reason, have my own Beatrice in my real life. Like a girl I'm super in love with who is now dating somebody who knows lots about wine.
Yes.
So, in a strange sense, I do feel him inside me in that sense.
Okay, and how do you feel it? How do you know he's inside you?
Because there seems to be an energy directing me to be kinder to strangers and to spread more love that feels very physical because of how much power and energy it has, but that I've never been able to conjure in myself just from a desire to be good.
But how do you know it's Dante, not an angel or another spiritual being? Like what differentiates this from?
Well, I don't want to presume. I think it's dangerous to think that an angel can come into you. But
you're presuming Dante, who's dead, can come into you, right?
Well, through his work.
Yes.
Okay. I just don't want to think that an angel has come into me, because it's a very slippery slope about what you might do then.
Okay, yeah. So that's what great art is. Great art becomes part of the universal consciousness, and by reading it, if you read it well, I'm not saying if you read it like, the way we're reading it, but I'm saying like if you read it over years and years, and you continue to have these visions, and you continue to have these spiritual experiences, and you continue to practice divine comedy in your life, then eventually Dante is going to take possession of you, and he's going to reveal things to you that were once unimaginable to you before. And it's very similar to a religious experience. It's very similar to a psychedelic experience. Yes?
Actually, Professor, I would really appreciate it if you could share the changes that you experience yourself as well. Because like if we went through like the Divine Comedy within a week, and then we all experienced some changes to a certain extent, and then you spent 4 years on it, I think you definitely experienced a lot more than we did.
Okay, so I'll tell you some of my changes, okay? First of all, what's really obvious to me is I feel a lot lighter, like physically a lot lighter, as though I am almost like floating in the air. okay? Because, you know, when you're in China, like every day, it's a pain in the ass, right? Because, you know, like when you're walking the streets, there's scooters flying around, okay? When you go to the restaurant, often the food is going to be, you know, it's going to give you food poisoning, okay? And then and then you might get in an argument with someone on, you know, it's a very common thing in China. So it's, and like when that happens, what I feel is really heavy, you know, like just my blood boiling and just like, you know, like pure hatred and just pure anger, right? I'm just really annoyed, okay? Because like I love walking, and Beijing is not a walking city, and it annoys me. I feel trapped. I feel like I can't go outside because if I go outside, a scooter might bump into me and I'll get angry and all that, okay? So, but when I read the Divine Comedy, all that dissipates, right? And that anger, those memories, for whatever reason, they just float away. And then I feel floating upwards, okay? That's one really obvious thing that I notice. Okay, but again, it's something that and I think it's because I've been doing Divine Comedy for a long time and I understand it pretty well. Okay, but so I'm saying like if you do read the Divine Comedy over time, I'm pretty sure you'll feel the same thing where you feel yourself lighter. It's almost like you're lifting yourself up to the heavens. It's almost like you can actually access the heavens yourself. Okay, that's one. Second thing is that I feel much more creative. I feel much more imaginative, right? So when you, in this class, when I teach, you can see I teach with imagination, right? I'm going to propose ideas to you. I'm going to propose situations to you that are really imaginative. And I think it's because as I am teaching, as I'm reading Divine Comedy, I have a cosmic connection with Dante. And Dante in the universe, it's feeding me visions, it's feeding me ideas. The difference between you guys and me is you've just started, so these visions are involuntary, meaning like they just come to you and you don't actually know what to make of them. But if you practice this for a long time, like I have, you're able to control these visions. You basically say, I need this vision in order to teach this canto well, and the vision comes to you automatically, okay? I know it sounds weird, but I have no idea what I'm teaching, what I will teach, okay? And then on the cab right here, I know, okay? I know what I want to focus on. I know what I want to teach. It's all very inspirational, okay? That's the second thing. The third thing is that when you actually read Dante a lot, you feel a profound sense of purpose and mission, which is like my responsibility is to share Dante with the world to change the world for the better. You feel as though if I really, I have a special gift for understanding Dante, and I have a mission to spread this. And how do I know? Because I think Dante is smiling at me from the heavens. He's smiling at me, and he's like, "You're spreading my message of love, and thank you so much." So you feel a deep sense of mission, but you also feel a deep sense of gratitude, purpose, responsibility. And again, but like the ultimate sensation, and I'm not sure if you guys ever had this, is you feel really light. You feel as though you're flying, you know, and you feel as though you're ascending upwards. It's almost like transcendence, okay? Transcendent. You're being transcendent when you read Divine Comedy. Yes?
Psychedelics, I totally agree with the first two, but I think it still has a lack of will and purpose at the end. So you do feel like elevated. You care less about small things, about oh I'm late,
Yes.
or I don't have enough money or something. Like
Yes.
it really doesn't matter at all. You're connected to a way higher purpose.
Yes.
So you do feel lighter and creative, and you can direct your creativeness into, for example, me as a student learning. So you find new ways of learning and way more efficiently. But we do lack the motion to actually do things, and yeah, it's really
Well,
comparable.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you for that. Any more questions before we continue? Okay. All right. Okay. So we are going now to the ultimate canto of Inferno, like the last canto. Okay. But before we do that, I want us to use our imagination. Okay. So imagine we're in Hollywood and writing this movie, and we have the script already, and now we just have to figure out the ending, right? And the ending, of course, is we meet Lucifer. We meet Satan. This is the ending of Inferno. Okay? So I want to use our imagination and ask ourselves, if we are writing this movie, okay, first of all, how would we describe Lucifer? What is Lucifer? And like, how would we set the scene for the ending? Okay? And again, this is the ending. Right? So any suggestions? Come on, let's be creative. Let's channel Dante. Yes.
Well,
Look. I know we've read the ending, but I'm just saying, like, let's use our imagination. Pretend we have not. Okay. Yes.
well, our initial big question is he tempting still, or is he pitiful?
Exactly. Okay. So the big question is temptation, because that is what Satan does, right? He is going to meet Dante and say to Dante, I know you want to meet Beatrice, but let me tempt you with other things, right? Let me give you a beautiful woman. Let me give you riches. Let me give you a worldly kingdom, right? That's the most obvious thing you can do, right? Temptation. Just as Satan tempted Jesus in the desert, Satan will now tempt Dante in hell, okay? So that's obvious. What some other things? Yes?
Maybe try to sign a contract because the demon, they always want to sign a contract with
Exactly.
you to make deals.
Yes. A contract, right? Right, for your soul, right? And this is the plot, of course, for Faust. And this is a very common thing. Yes?
Well, we have to show him tethered in some way, where he is selling a path upwards to all the people he's giving deals to. So, but we know God cast him out of heaven forever. So his desire is to get back there. He's caused mischief on earth. So we need to show him, if it was a Hollywood movie, in some way tied to where he is, in a way that he can never escape.
Can you describe his appearance for us?
In the poem or in general?
No. We know the poem, okay? But I'm just saying, like, if this were a Hollywood movie, right? How would he look like? Who would you cast to play Satan in this movie?
An AI character. Most handsome person possible as decreed by AI.
I think handsome, right? I think like really good looking. Okay, like maybe Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise at their prime. Okay, like really hot, really good looking. Okay, because that's part of the temptation, right? So beautiful, and in the Bible, not in the Bible, but like Christianity believes that Lucifer was a beautiful angel, right? The most beautiful of all the angels. So he has to be beautiful, right? And he has to be like really handsome and almost like a prince, right? Okay. Any other ideas for how this will play out? Yes.
Like, to what extent we can relate with him? Like, can we understand how he got himself there, or do we just see him very...
This is really good. Yes, sympathy, right? So Lucifer is going to tell us a story of how he was betrayed by God, right? You think I'm the betrayer, but God betrayed me. And this becomes a plot line for Paradise Lost. But yeah, no, we have to sympathize with Satan, because it's not just tempting Dante, he has to tempt us as well. He has to seduce us with his story. Yes. Anything else?
One. I would imagine him as a shapeshifter, because, well, and it's part of temptation, because you kind of become whoever is the object of someone's desire.
Yeah. Well, I would say he's a poet, right? Because that's what a poet is. A poet is a chameleon. Okay. A poet is always shifting words to please you. Okay. Lyrical. So when he speaks, it is the most beautiful poetry in the Divine Comedy. It's lyrical. It's poetry, and he's a chameleon. Yes. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Like very cunning or like lying like a snake. So like how the temptation happens in the Garden of Eden. It'll be like,
Yes.
did God really say this? Or like actually word by word, he didn't really say that. And then kind of debates with you and makes you kind of believe
he has
him.
to be. He has to be like. He has to provide logical syllogisms, right?
Yeah.
He has to convince you.
Yes.
Okay. And he will be very convincing, right? He'll use logic, just as in Paradise Lost, where Satan convinced Eve, right? It was a very logical speech. Okay. Anyone else?
I'd read Paradise Lost before I read Inferno, and so I was expecting it's like a paradigm shift, or the Germans would call it a Gestalt shift. The Gestalt shift, where like my entire worldview changed because of how Satan had expressed his point of view, and so it goes beyond sympathy to empathy for him, and I would expect him to use that persuasively. So something beyond temptation would be persuasive and lawyerly.
Yes.
Like so, every argument that I would have, this is Brothers Karamazov. Every argument that I would have would be steel-manned by him and then broken down by him.
That's right. So not only do we have to sympathize with him, we have to be like feel that we are like him. Yes, exactly. Yes.
It makes me think about C.S. Lewis's Screw Type Letters. I think it was basically written about a uncle demon who is trying to teach his young nephew demon to seduce people. So it was all kinds of lectures from demons. So these letters to teach him how to seduce men and be like. So it's really fun. So that whole book was written in a demon's perspective, which is very fun. But it's about all of these mentioned above, like deception.
Where's Virgil in this movie? What happens to Virgil? Right, because they went on this long journey together. What happens to Virgil? Any what would you do with Virgil, this character? You know that Dante's being tempted, right? And Dante represents us, and we know what Satan's doing, but what's Virgil doing?
I mean, I guess if it was a movie, he'd be transitioned to like a location where he would be watching over Dante, but not involved in this scene.
I think the first thing is that Virgil would be trapped, right? Or he would be frozen, right? He'd be frozen, and Satan would use Virgil as a bargaining chip and says, "Listen, your friend now is frozen. If you love him, let's make a deal." Right? So you can almost see the scene where Virgil and Dante come in, and the first thing that happens is that Satan just snaps his finger and Virgil is frozen in place. Cannot move, cannot speak, and Dante is now terrified. Right? And now Satan will begin his temptation, tell his story, elicit sympathy, then use his logic to convince us that, no, actually the way we understood the universe is wrong. God is evil, Satan is good. That's why there's this rebellion. This basically becomes a plot of Paradise Lost, okay? But yeah, yes.
I think he'd also inspire fear.
Yes, right. He has to inspire fear and anxiety, right? In the beginning, but then he wants you to love him. Does that make sense? Maybe in the beginning you want fear and anxiety, but then yes.
He would also try to cause distrust between maybe him and Virgil.
That's interesting. Yes. Okay.
So because Virgil is his best friend up to this point, and if he causes distrust between them, then it makes him.
That is great. Yeah. So maybe not freeze Virgil, but change Virgil and show certain things, certain flashbacks between Virgil and Dante that show that Virgil is not a reliable character. And there's quite a few of these scenes. Yes.
Makes me think about like Harry Potter, where it's like kind of make you lose all hope or despair, or like kind of breaks down of your fundamental belief of the world.
Yes.
And then where like Harry Potter has to say expello patronus to expel all this darkness and despair in your life. Yes. So it's kind of the similar.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So this is all great. Okay. And like, this is what a Hollywood movie would look like. This is what most people would write. Okay. And guess what? We are completely and utterly wrong. Okay? None of this happens. In fact, the complete opposite happens. Okay? All right? This is what's shocking about Divine Comedy. So we're gonna read. We'll now read the last canto. Again, this is what we should expect to happen. This is what most people would write. In fact, a lot of people have written this in literature. got Goethe with Falls, Milton Paradise Lost. You have Philip Pullman, who wrote his Dark Materials trilogy. But that's how it happens. Okay. Okay. So let's read Canto 34, and we're trying to figure out why this does not happen.
Okay. Canto 34. Vexilla regis prodeunt inferni toward us, and therefore keep your eyes ahead, my master said, to see if you can spy him.
Okay. So they're now going to meet Satan and or Lucifer. Okay. Whatever name. That's the devil. Okay.
Just as when night falls on our hemisphere, or when a heavy fog is blowing thick, a windmill seems to wheel when seen far off. So then I seemed to see that sort of structure. And next, because the wind was strong, I shrank behind my guide. There was no other shelter. And now with fear I set it down in meter. I was where all the shades were fully covered but visible as wisps of straw and glass. There some lie flat, another stand erect, one on his head and one upon his soles, and some bend face to feet just like a bow. But after we had made our way ahead, my master felt he now should have me see that creature who was once a handsome presence. He stepped aside and made me stop and said, "Look, here is this, and
This is just a name for Lucifer, okay, or Satan. Okay.
and this the place where you will have to arm yourself with fortitude. O reader, do not ask of me how I grew faint and frozen then. I cannot write it. All words would fall far short of what it was. I did not die, and I was not alive. Think for yourself, if you have any wit, what I became, deprived of life and death. The emperor of the despondent kingdom so towered from the ice up from mid-chest that I matched better with a giant's breadth than giants match the measure of his arms. Now you can gauge the size of all of him if it is in proportion to such parts.
So basically, this guy's a skyscraper. Okay. He is huge. Keep on going.
If he was once as handsome and he now is ugly, and despite that raised his brows against his maker, one can understand how every sorrow has its source in him. I marveled when I saw that on his head he had 3 faces, one in front blood red, and then another 2 that just above the midpoint of each shoulder joined the first, and at the crown all 3 were reattached. The right looked somewhat yellow, somewhat white. The left in its appearance was like those who come from where the Nile descending flows. Beneath each face of his 2 wings spread out, as broad as suited so immense a bird. I've never seen a ship with sails so wide. They had no feathers, but were fashioned like a bat's, and he was agitating them so that 3 winds made their way out from him. And all Cocytus froze before those winds. He wept out of 6 eyes, and down 3 chins tears gushed together with a bloody froth. Within each mouth he used it like a grinder. With gnashing teeth he tore to bits a sinner, so that he brought much pain to 3 at once. The forward sinner found that biting nothing when matched against the clawing, for at times his back was stripped completely of its hide. That soul up there who was to suffer most, my master said, Judas Iscariot, his head inside, he jerks his legs without. Of those 2 others with their heads beneath, the one who hangs from that black snout is Brutus. See how he writhes and does not say a word. That other who seems so robust is Cassius. But night has come again, and it is time for us to leave. We have seen everything. Just as he asked, I clasped him around the neck, and he watched for the chance of time and place, and when the wings were open wide enough. He took fast hold upon the shaggy flanks and then descended down from tuft to tuft between the tangled hair and icy crusts. When we had reached the point at which the thigh revolves, just at the swelling of the hip, my guide, with heavy strain and rugged work, reversed his head to where his legs had been and grappled on the hair as one who climbs. I thought that we were going back to hell. Hold tight, my master said. He panted like a man exhausted. It is by such stairs that we must take our leave of so much evil. Then he slipped through a crevice in a rock and placed me on the edge of it to sit. That done, he climbed toward me with steady steps. I raised my eyes, believing I should see the half of Lucifer that I had left. Instead, I saw him with his legs turned up. And if I then became perplexed, do let the ignorant be judges, those who cannot understand what point I had just crossed. Get up, my master said, be on your feet. The way is long, the path is difficult. The sun's already back to middle tiers. It was no palace hall, the place in which we found ourselves, but with this rough-hewn floor and scanty light, a dungeon built by nature. Before I free myself from this abyss, master, I said when I stood up straight, tell me enough to see I don't mistake. Where's this ice, and how's he so placed head downward? Tell me too, how has the sun in so few hours gone from night to morning? And he to me, you still believe you're north of the center, where I grasped the hair of the damned worm who pierces through the world. And you were there as long as I descended, but when I turned, that's when you passed the point to which from every part all weights are drawn. And now you stand beneath the hemisphere, opposing that which cloaks the great dry lands, and underneath whose zenith died the man whose birth and life were sinless in this world. Your feet are placed upon a little sphere that forms the other face of the Judeca. Here it is morning when it's evening there, and he whose hair has served us as a ladder is still fixed, even as he was before. This was the side on which he fell from heaven, for fear of him. The land that once loomed here made of the sea a veil and rose into our hemisphere, and that land which appears upon this side perhaps to flee from him, left here this hollow space and hurried upward. There's a place below the limit of that cave, its farthest point but from Beelzebub, a place one cannot see. It is discovered by ear. There is a sounding stream that flows along the hollow of a rock eroded by winding waters, and the slope is easy. My guide and I came on that hidden road to make our way back into the bright world, and with no care for any rest, we climbed. He first, I following, until I saw, through a round opening, some of those things of beauty heaven bears. It was from there that we emerged to see once more the stars.
Okay, so the word we have for Canto 34 is anticlimactic, okay? This is not at all interesting or what we expected. There's no sense of relief. There's no sense of drama. We built all the way up, all right, to this canto, and it's just like a huge disappointment, right? We're expecting this beautiful Lucifer who would tempt us with poetry, and I don't even know what he is, actually, okay? So this is really paradoxical. Again, the word is paradox. This makes no sense. Dante is not a bad writer. He is a brilliant writer. So, how do you guys feel about this? Yes?
My initial sense is that he doesn't want to risk priming us in any way bad. So he's, as we've been saying, if his poetry is priming us to put seeds in our brain of interesting thoughts, he doesn't even want to write the tempting words that Satan might have said to him down there in case it infects the reader even slightly.
Is Satan capable of speech?
I can't remember reading anything in this that says he's not, but
We know he's actually not capable of speech. Why? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Go ahead.
He's chewing on a sinners.
Yeah. So his mouth is kind of busy, so he can't actually speak. But what else? Okay. All right. Did you have a comment? Okay. We know he's actually not capable of speech, not just because his mouth is busy, but also because why?
the lake in which he's frozen flips no matter what aspect you look at him. So he's frozen from the middle to either extremity of his body, and therefore there's no way his being can communicate.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, okay. You're right. So is he conscious? Is he conscious? Let me ask you this question. If this mosquito on your neck, what do? Yeah, you hit it, obviously, right? Is there a mosquito on Satan? Is there a mosquito on Satan? It's Virgil, man. What's he doing? Nothing. Do you understand? He's not even conscious. What is he? He's not conscious, right? What is he really?
NPC.
No, I would say, yeah, I would say he's an NPC. I'd say he's even worse than an NPC. What?
He's like a zombie.
No, he's even worse than a zombie.
Yeah.
Actually, if you just look at it, look at the words that Dante used to describe him, right?
Like robot.
He's even worse than a robot. What are the words that Dante used to describe him? He is a what? No, he actually uses certain words to describe the Lucifer. What other words he uses? First of all, what is Lucifer doing? What is he like literally doing?
It says he's the motor. It says he's a ship. What, I've never seen a ship with sails so wide. So like
A ship is one of these
vessel.
words. What's some other words?
A bird. He says a bat and a bird.
What line?
Well, his wings are like
Yeah, his wings are like bats, but what is he? Read it carefully. What words are being used to describe? See me? A grinder? Yes. What else? There are lots of these. Grinder? What else?
I think he said giant or like really big at some point.
Where? Find me the line. Read the poetry, guys. He's using specific words to describe.
Kind of animalistic.
Find me the words.
He says, as suited so immense a bird.
Bird. This is a simile, right? I'm saying like, what are the words that directly?
Number line 6 is blowing thick. A windmill seems to wail and seem far off.
So windmill.
Yeah.
What's the next line?
And in 7, he says, so then I seem to see that sort of structure.
Structure. Do you understand? Windmill, structure, tower. He is a building. Okay, he is a machine. That's all he is. He's not even conscious, right? He's an air conditioner. That's like literally what he is. He's a giant air conditioner, blowing wind to cool the lake. Yeah, that's all he is. He's an ice blower. Like, what is going on here? Okay? This makes no sense.
I think, yeah, he's the paradoxical source of cold. So if cold is molecules vibrating less and less quickly, somehow there has to be a source in this magic universe, and that's him.
Right. So his punishment, his betrayal is so great because he's betraying God that his punishment is that he's lost all consciousness. Right? Now he's just a machine. That is how low he's sunk. He's just a building. He's just yes?
Like, I was thinking if he is conscious but he cannot do anything with his situation, wouldn't that be like a worse punishment? Because now he is basically gone, and then there's just his like that. It's just his physical being that is in hell, but not his conscious or his soul. Like, wouldn't it be a worse punishment if he knew what he was doing, but then he couldn't
he's
do anything
comatose.
about it?
Is that what you're saying? He's comatose. He's a vegetable.
Kinda.
Okay. I don't. Yeah, I mean, like I think he's just frozen, right? Because consciousness requires experience. Yes.
would venture to say that's his just punishment.
Right.
Lucifer's just punishment
Right.
because he was anything but, and now seems like this powerless, inert, frozen being that's just kind of not even at its will or has conscience.
Right. Yes. Okay.
And it is also funny that if God is the source of light and love and sun and, you know, everything, energy, heat, then Lucifer is the lack of. So like going back to Paradiso Canto 1, you know, stanza
Yes.
1.
Exactly.
He's
right.
the mirror, the opposite.
That's right. Exactly. Right. And remember, like angels, they can never turn away from God. Right. When the moment they turn away from God, they become this. Yes.
Yeah, I wonder not just in an ethical sense, like if God is all good, but just in a capability sense, like I'm good at running. Then having that lack of good in the capable sense, Satan, even like Uglino was good at being clever and locking people into that tower. And Satan is not good at anything because he can't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, to answer the question, is it possible he's conscious but he can't move? And the answer is, if you're conscious, he would be allowed to speak and talk about his punishment. Right? Does that make sense? And the fact that he doesn't speak means he's not actually even conscious. Yes?
But I think he does have some level of comprehension because it does say that he's crying.
Right. That is correct. Yes. He feels he is crying. Yes. That's a very interesting comment. Yes. And what do you make of this? Because he's clearly not conscious.
It's almost like that analogy of the sort of vegetative state.
Okay. Yeah.
He's-
So it's possible he's conscious and he's crying. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, what I still don't really understand is we say Satan or Lucifer was an angel, but angels can never turn away from God. So how did he turn away from God?
That's a great question. Yes. Okay. That's also a paradox. Yes.
I think Lucifer reminds me of a giant data center. It can host all kind of programs, can process information, but ultimately it lacks its own soul.
Yeah, exactly. So he's clearly a machine. Okay, but let's try to figure out the question, okay? Because all angels are staring at God. They're turning towards God. And then Lucifer turns away. Yes?
I think this is quite a prosaic interpretation, but because he's the god of light, the angel of light, it is in his essence. Darkness is also essential to his being just by being the angel of light. So he's like the most unlucky angel because of all of the ones that would ever slip up and turn to the darkness. It's going to be him because as the angel of light, that's the only way I can see.
Yeah. So what? Yes.
Because I've heard that the God loved Lucifer mostly. So maybe
Yeah.
because
So
the
he's the
love
most
too much.
beloved of God, right?
Yeah,
He's God's lieutenant.
Yeah, the love is not limitation. Maybe can, you know.
Right. So it's possible that he was the lieutenant and he had free will. He screwed up. Okay.
But then he wasn't an angel, because angels don't have a free will, right?
Right. No, but like remember when we were up in Paradiso, there are different levels of angels. There are different categories of angels, right?
Yeah,
So
but we said all angels have no free will, I thought.
And conscious.
Or consciousness.
No consciousness and no free.
right,
Yeah.
right. But think of them as, you know, organs in a body, right? They're all different. They all serve a particular function, and this particular organ, Satan chose to become a cancer, and so the body threw him out. But what he didn't recognize is that without the body, the larger body, you as an organ have actually no purpose, and so you just decay and become dead.
Yeah, but he could still choose, but he still had a decision, or he could make a decision. But like if you don't have a free will, then how can you make a decision?
Yes.
I think that he was God's number 2.
Yes.
So that he didn't have free will, but he was about as close as possible that
Yes.
any celestial intelligence could get. That I know it's difficult for me as well, but I just think that it's God proving that whoever he gave, like imagine he has to organize his power in a certain way with amongst angels to exact his will or whatever. His number 2, the one he gives the most power to, is the one most likely to betray him and turn away and have that capacity.
So
Okay.
was he always supposed to turn away from him?
That's a kind of a theme in Paradise Lost, but I'm not sure it's a question I can answer.
Okay, all right. So let's first talk about things we know. Okay. First of all, we know that God's gift to humanity was free will, and free will is what distinguishes us from other beings. Okay, that we know from Paradiso. We have free will, and we can choose whatever path we want. That's number one. Okay. Number two is the functions of the angels in the heavens is to basically be organs of a body, right? To maintain the proper functioning of the universe. Okay, so they don't actually have free will. They're just basically servants. Okay, so Lucifer was the head servant, and he doesn't have free will, and so how does he turn away from God then? He doesn't have free will. How does he turn away from God?
I just think it's in the nature of the number two to eventually try to be number one.
Yeah, his nature has to be disobedience. Okay, that's the only thing that makes sense. Like, it's his nature to be disobedient. It is his will to turn away from God. That is his function, turn away from God. Why that's the case? I don't really know. Okay.
So when God constructed this hierarchy, then he must have willed this, that he would one day turn away.
Yeah.
So okay.
Right. So the only thing that he cannot will is us. He gave us free will, okay? But everything else he willed into being. Right? Right? Yes?
Sometimes I think this is a little bit funny that it's almost like a father whose son is really good at table tennis, but the school he's sending his son to doesn't play table tennis. So he tries to get the school to play table tennis before his son attends it. So God let Satan destroy the world so that Jesus would be able to have as big of an impact as possible.
Yeah, that's what Christians believe, right? Okay. Yeah, that's the idea here. Like everything happens for a reason. But if that's the case, okay, this creates another paradox, which is there are three betrayers, right? Three people are being punished. And these are the worst offenders in human history. And they are Judas Iscariot, they are Brutus and Cassius. Brutus and Cassius, of course, are the two who assassinated Julius Caesar. But we know for a fact that there's a plan, right? The plan is to create Christianity. Brutus and Cassius were crucial to this plan because by killing Julius Caesar, that enabled the rise of Augustus Caesar and the Roman Empire. And then Judas Iscariot is crucial to this plan because without him, there would be no betrayal, right? And so Jesus would not be crucified. So, like, if it's all part of God's plan, why would these three be punished? Yeah?
Because it's a vision being shown to Dante, to conscious minds, that if you showed that evil people sometimes are part of God's plan, I don't think that's a good image to spread.
Okay. Yes.
I don't know if Dante would be a determinist, that he's been harping on free will.
That's right. That's right. So that can't be the answer, okay? Free will is a fundamental law of the universe, okay? So why are these three being punished?
Okay. So in theology, I think they explain it like this, if I'm not mistaken, is that God has a plan for the world. He sees the ultimate ending of all your choices. He's kind of like AI, right? Like he can foresee, like AlphaGo, he can foresee your next step. He gives you free will, right? As the competitor on the other side of the Go game. So he knows ultimately as AI can calculate by mathematical formulas that you are going to end up at this step. So like all the betrayers, God can see that they're going to end up doing that. But God doesn't control and make you like you have to do that. But God just kind of like silently watch behind the curtain and be like, oh, you're going there? Okay, then there will be Jesus. Or you're going that, then there will be the Holy Roman Empire. So he doesn't interfere. So he's not responsible for your fault. So he's not willing, planning you, predetermining you to make that fall. But he kind of prepares like AI. He prepares like options 1 to 12, depends on your,
I understand that, but at the same time, they are contributing to the divine plan, right? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm speculating. I don't have a conclusion yet.
Yeah,
But,
all we're doing is speculating,
Okay.
right? Because, like, again, if you read all the commentary, the scholarship on Dante, no one knows what's going on. Like what's going on here, right?
I want to follow up on that point of just the perception and how psychedelics alters the filters and the ability for perception. It's almost like God, the creator, is putting up a play for all us humans to watch. The Matrix, whatever it is, and it's for us to watch and perceive, but even this is not reality.
Right, okay.
But it's meant to do something to open you up.
Okay, right. I don't think Donnie's that complicated. Let's focus on simple solutions, okay? Okay, so again, like Occam's razor, we are looking for elegance. So that's a great explanation. All these are great explanations, but I'm looking for like a really elegant explanation for what's going on. Okay, let's move towards elegance, clarity, and simplicity so that everyone understands. Yes?
Online chat. So how Lucifer managed constant adversity for mortals in any and every degree is God's will.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Yes?
So we had said earlier, Augustine claims that God made hell, and hell is good because it's cosmic justice. You cannot have free will without evil. I don't know if Augustine comes to a determination that God made evil or if evil is a byproduct of free will, but it seems like they go hand in hand.
Okay. All right. So we're running out of time, okay? But let's explain what's going on, okay? There may be a divine plan. Doesn't matter, okay? Because we are the divine plan. The imagination is the divine plan. And so what matters is this advancing God's plan. That's not what matters, okay? The results don't matter. It's a process that matters. What matters is what effect does it have on us, okay? Now, Brutus and Cassius are important because how did they assassinate Julius Caesar? Do you guys know the story of Julius Caesar? Who are these people, Brutus and Cassius? Yes?
So I think Julius Caesar was about to give a big speech, and in the forum before, they beckoned him in and said, let's have a meeting just prior to your big address to the Senate, and then they killed him.
Oh, no, but I'm saying, like, how did they get access to Julius Caesar?
By being his friend, comrade, helper.
Yeah. And to Brutus, okay? So you guys don't know this, but there's speculation that Brutus was his son. All right, so remember, this is when was Julius Caesar assassinated? Like, what year? 33? I can't actually remember when he was assassinated, okay? But it's like 10 years after these brutal civil wars when all these Romans were trying to kill each other. And then Julius Caesar was the only one left standing, and everyone around him, so 44 BC, okay? But everyone around him were his best friends, his most loyal allies. And these were the people who betrayed him. Do you understand? Okay? So it goes back to the idea of betrayal of guests. But what this is the betrayal of the host. Does it make sense? They are guests in his house. He is basically emperor now. And they, yes.
Is it not even worse? Is it because the Romans then later said that Julius Caesar is God, so it's betrayal of God, maybe even.
Exactly.
So,
that's right. After Augustus Caesar comes to power, he elevates Julius Caesar to divinity, okay? So this is why they're in hell, because Brutus and Cassius, not only did they kill the host, right, but they killed God himself.
But from the Christian view, it wouldn't be, from Dante, it wouldn't be a god. Like Julius Caesar wouldn't be a god from Dante's view.
Yeah, but then the question then is, who is really master of hell, and who put these guys there?
Virgil.
Probably Virgil, okay? Because we know it's not Lucifer. Do you understand? Okay, this is why the Divine Comedy, it is so brilliant. Because this is a Hollywood movie, but it's a shock reveal. You understand? It's a shock reveal. We thought Lucifer was the one in charge, but it was Virgil all along. Okay? Because why else are Brutus and Cassius suffering like that? Okay, does that make sense? This is the shock reveal. All right? But has Dante been tempted by Virgil? Right? We said that Lucifer's job is to tempt Jesus. Has Virgil tempted Dante? Has he succeeded in tempting Dante?
Somewhat, because earlier in the Inferno, it seems fairly clear, even if there are some doubts, that Dante does trust Virgil as his guide.
Yeah. How much does he trust Virgil? Okay, the scene is this, right? What lets him out of hell is Virgil climbs Lucifer. Where's Dante? Virgil's the one climbing Lucifer, right? Where is Dante? On the back of Virgil. Right? Do you understand this? Okay? So they're climbing out of hell and they go into sunlight. What does this remind you of? This is an allegory for what?
The medieval mythos of saving and like abduction or saving like the princess. Who's
Much more simple than that. Yes?
Icar? Like
What?
the Icar, the one that flew and that got too close to the sun.
Oh, Icarus?
Icarus, yeah.
Yes?
Just stepping on the shoulders of giants to reach ahead.
Oh, yeah. That's an interesting. That's not one thing about. Okay. Yes.
Birth?
Yes. It's birth, man. Right? Think about how the mother takes you from the darkness into the light for her own for her exertion. Right? It's mirroring birth. It's hell. It's complete darkness. And Virgil is climbing Lucifer with Dante on his back. And they go into the light. It's exertion. Right? So has Virgil succeeded? Yeah, he's made Dante into his son. Once we leave Inferno, the temptation is complete. It's a journey into temptation. Right? It's a journey into sin, into darkness. And now Dante is completely beholden to Virgil as his son. Does that make sense? Yes.
Yeah, because later we see as well that Dante misses Virgil.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Do you see how beautiful this is? It's anticlimactic, but it's perfect ending. And it is so symbolic. Right? Does that make sense to you guys? All right. Any questions or comments about this? Yes.
Metaphor kind of makes me think about, it's so evangelical to say, but like, so that like our 100 years on earth, it's kind of like this journey of in the mother's womb and growing and learning about the ultimate reality, like Plato said that he has seen outside of the cave. And so that after this 100 years, we are officially entering eternal life to live life to the fullest in heaven or whatever places. So it's kind of the same as this ending, I feel like.
Exactly. Another comment I'll make is like the birth is an allegory for Dante reading the Aeneid, right, in Latin. Because at this time, everyone memorized the Aeneid in Latin. And it's a really good way to learn Latin, by the way. So it's an allegory for that. Like you reading the Aeneid is like Virgil giving birth to you. Okay? So this is again the beauty of Divine Comedy. This now is a cliffhanger, right? Because Lucifer has succeeded in tempting Jesus. The temptation is complete. And so now what's going to happen is we know we've read Paradise, okay? We know that Paradiso, it is vision and revelation. It mirrors the book of Revelation, okay? We know that. We also know like Inferno is really prophecy. It is a criticism of Italy, okay? So what Purgatory has to be is a pilgrimage or a journey, Okay? It's going to be literally a journey away from Virgil and into Beatrice. Away from hell and into heaven, okay? And this is like the grand scheme of the Divine Comedy. All right? So when we come back, we're going to look at how Virgil is really Lucifer. All right? So enjoy your break. We'll come back in an hour. Good afternoon. So a couple of issues from this morning. Okay, the first issue is, why is Lucifer crying? We said he was not conscious. We said he was just a building. Why is he crying? This has to do with the idea that all beings aspire to be with God. Okay, the closer you are to God, the happier you are. The further you away from God, the unhappier you are. And Lucifer, because of his betrayal, he is now permanently away from God, and that's why he cries. He'll cry for all eternity. Also remember, in Limbo, even though Limbo is a really nice retirement community, it's just like Earth, a very nice Italy, they're all sighing because they can never be with God, okay? So that's why Lucifer is crying. That doesn't necessarily mean he's conscious, but it just means that he's sad. He has the eternal unhappiness because he is forever away from God. Second question that we discussed this morning that needs to be clarified is, why did Satan rebel? Okay, and I said something really incorrect this morning, which is like, angels do not have free will. In fact, they do have free will, but they have perfect free will, which means they have perfect obedience to God. Like once you reach perfection, free will is perfect obedience. Okay, and that's what Augustine says in the City of God. So imagine a situation where in the beginning, there were the angels. And this is before God created us. And the angels, they have free will, and some chose to rebel, like Lucifer, and some chose to side with God, and it's created the war in heaven, right? There's something that Milton writes about in Paradise Lost. But there's this war in heaven, and those who sided with Lucifer, they're cast into hell, and those who stayed with God stayed in heaven. And because they chose God, they forever will look towards him and can never look away from him because they already made that choice. And as such, heaven is able to reach perfection. Okay? And this state of affairs also foretells our fate, where, remember, there's a day of judgment, and the day of judgment is, do you choose God or do you choose Satan? Those who choose Satan will be forever punished in hell, and those who choose God will create heaven on earth, okay? It will literally be heaven coming on earth. So that's the idea of why Satan rebelled. He had free will, and he chose to rebel because of his pride. He wanted to be like God, just as like how Adam and Eve ate the fruit in order to be like God. And this caused a war in heaven. And after this war, heaven became perfect because everyone became completely loyal to God. Okay, does it make sense? Okay. So what we ended with this morning is the idea that the real Satan, the real master of hell, is Virgil. Okay? And that's why the canto is constructed the way it is. So to further appreciate this idea, what we're going to do is we're going to go and re-examine Canto 30. Okay? Canto 30, there, we don't have to go back yet. But Canto 30, remember, there's this argument, this fight, and it broke out between Sinon and Master Adam. Master Adam is a counterfeiter. And they're trying to argue who's worse, okay? Master Adam is a counterfeiter who basically diluted gold to make florins. Florins is the currency of Florence. And at this point in history, it is the most valuable currency, the most credible currency in the world because it's pure gold. And so when Master Adam, he dilutes the florins, the Florentines burn him at the stake, okay? That's how seriously they took it. Sinon is the Greek soldier who tricked the Trojans into letting in the Trojan horse. Okay, and we're gonna read the speech by Sinon to the Trojans that convinced them to let in the Trojan horse. And they're trying to argue who's worse, the perjurer, who is Sinon, the false witness, or the counterfeiter, Master Adam. And we have to think about why this fight is happening. Remember, whenever Dante creates a paradox, the goal is to make us think much deeper about the underlying message, the underlying text, okay? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go and read the Aeneid. And this is book 2, where Aeneas is recounting the fall of Troy. And so if you know the history, what happens is the Greeks try for 10 years to breach the walls of Troy. They can't do it, so like, okay, we're kind of stuck. And so Ulysses proposes the Trojan horse. And so they pretend to run away. The Greeks pretend to run away, and they leave behind the Trojan horse. And of course, inside the Trojan horse are Ulysses, Achilles, all the great Greek champions. It's a trap, right? And the Trojans have the debate about what to do with the horse, and everyone's like, well, obviously this is a trap. Let's just like burn it, man. And then what turns the tide is Sinon, the Greek soldier, comes in and he tricks the Trojans. Okay, so we'll read about a couple hundred lines, but I just want to get you a feel for what's going on. Okay, all right, can you read, please?
Suddenly, in the thick of it all, a young soldier, hands shackled behind his back, with much shouting, Trojan shepherds were hailing him toward the king. They'd come on the man by chance, a total stranger. He'd given himself up with one goal in mind, to open Troy to the Greeks and lay her waste. He trusted to courage, nerved for either end, to weave his lies or face his certain death. Young Trojans recruits, keen to have a look, came scurrying up from all sides, crowding round, outdoing each other to make a mockery of the captive. Now hear the treachery of the Greeks and learn from a single crime the nature of the beast. Haggard, helpless, there in our midst he stood, all eyes riveted on him now, and turning a wary glance at the lines of Trojan troops, he groaned and spoke. Where can I find some refuge, where on land, on sea? What's left for me, a man of so much misery? Nothing among the Greeks, no place at all, and worse, I see my Trojan enemies crying for my blood. His groans convince me, cutting all our show of violence short. We press him. Tell us where you were born, your family. What news do you bring? Tell us what you trust to, such a willing captive.
Okay, so this morning we talked about Satan, right? How if Dante were to meet Satan, then Satan would, with poetry, with lyrical poetry, tempt him. And the first thing that Satan would do is elicit his sympathy, right? And that's exactly what Sinon is doing here. Keep on going.
All of it, my king, I'll tell you. Come what may, the whole true story, Greek I am, I don't deny it. Now that first, fortune may have made me a man of misery, but wicked as she is, she can't make Sinon a lying fraud as well. Now, perhaps you've caught some rumor of Palamedes, Belus' son, and his shining fame that rings in song. The Greeks charged him with treason, a trumped-up charge, an innocent man, and just because he opposed the war, they put him to death. But once he's robbed of the light, they mourn him sorely. Now, I was his blood kin, a youngster when my father, a poor man, sent me off to the war at choice at Palamedes as Palamedes' comrade. Long as he kept his royal status, holding forth in the councils of the kings, I had some standing too, some pride of place. But once he left the land of the living, thanks to the jealous, forked tongue of our Ulysses, you're no stranger to his story. I was shattered. I dragged out my life in the shadows, grieving, seething alone in silence. Outraged by my innocent friend's demise, until I burst out like a madman, swore if I ever returned in triumph to our native Argos, ever got the chance, I'd take revenge, and my oath provoked a storm of hatred. That was my first step on the slippery road to ruin. From then on, Ulysses kept tormenting me, pressing charge on charge. From then on, he brooded about this two-edged rumors among the rank and file. Driven by guilt, he looked for ways to kill me. He never rested until making Calchas his henchman. But why now? Why go over that ungiving ground again?
Okay, stop. Okay, all right. So this is a very long speech, but the idea is, with his poetry, he's able to elicit sympathy, and that convinces the Trojans to let in the Trojan horse, even though the common sense tells them we shouldn't actually take gifts from strangers. Okay, like we shouldn't actually let this thing in. We don't know what it is, and that's really the power of poetry. Okay, so that's Sinon, and that's why he's condemned to hell, because he hijacked people's imagination in order to feed them a false narrative that destroyed their city. Okay? Now we're going to Canto 30, and I want to reread the argument between Master Adam, the counterfeiter, and Sinon. Okay? So this is line 91. Canto 30, Inferno, line 91. Okay. And this is after Master Adam told Dante his story of how he engaged in counterfeiting, and so the Florentines burned him at the stake.
And I to him, who are those two poor sinners who give off smoke like wet hands in the winter and lie so close to you upon the right? I found them here, he answered, when I rained down to this rocky slope. They've not stirred since and will not move, I think, eternally. One is the lying woman who blamed Joseph, the other lying Sinon, Greek from Troy. Because of raging fever, they reek so. And one of them, who seemed to take offense, perhaps at being named so squalidly, struck with his fist at Adam's rigid belly.
Okay, so I thought I was just asking Adam, who are these other two people being punished here? And Adam's like, well, and so he names them, and one of them, Sinon, who for all eternity has not stirred. He just lies there in a raging fever. That's his punishment. He hears his name, he gets really angry, and he takes offense and punches Adam. Okay, keep on going.
It sounded as if it had been a drum, and Master Adam struck him in the face using his arm, which did not seem less hard, saying to him, although I cannot move my limbs because they're too heavy, I still have an arm that's free to serve that need. And he replied, but when you went to burning, your arm was not as quick as it was now, though when you coined, it was as quick as more.
So now they're just insulting each other, okay? Keep on going.
To which the dropsied one, here you speak true, but you were not so true a witness there, when you were asked to tell the truth at Troy. If I spoke false, you falsified the coin, said Sinon. I'm here for just one crime, but you've committed more than any demon.
So Sinon's like, well, I spoke false, but you falsified the coin, right? And in every country, you would get punished a lot more for counterfeiting than you would for lying, right? In fact, I think the worst punishment is counterfeiting, right? The worst crime is counterfeiting, right? What does the Secret Service do in the United States? It looks for counterfeiters, okay? It's a very serious thing. And when Isaac Newton was head of the mint in England, if he caught you counterfeiting, he would basically torture you to death, okay? It's a very serious thing. And so Sinon's just pointing this out, like, you falsifying the coins a lot worse than what I did. All I did was just lie, right? Keep on going.
Not forget the horse, you perjurer, replied the one who had the bloated belly. May you be plagued because the whole world knows it.
And what Adam says is that for your lie, you let the Trojans let in the Trojan horse, and that destroy the Trojan civilization, okay? So the consequences were much worse.
And you be plagued by thirst that cracks your tongue, and putrid water that has made your belly such a hedge before your eyes. And then the coiner, so as usual your mouth, because of racking fever, gapes. For if I thirst and if my humor bloats me, you have both dryness and a head that aches. Few words would be sufficient invitation to have you lick the mirror of Narcissus. I was intent on listening to them when this was what my master said. If you insist on looking more, I'll quarrel with you. And when I heard him speak so angrily, I turned around to him with shame so great that it still stirs within my memory.
Okay, so what is strange about this? What's going on? What stands out about this story, about this passage? What does Virgil do here that he's never done before? And he'll never do it again, actually.
He's stopping the conversation. He's stopping Dante from digging deeper.
Okay, but he's done that before, right? He's switched topics. But here he's doing something that he's never done before, and he'll never do again.
Does he threaten Dante?
He's angry with Dante, right? He's never done that before. Okay, so what's he angry about? Why is he angry? All right, so the paradox is this, okay? Virgil is angry at Dante because Dante is watching a fight between Master Adam and Sinon, right? And Master Adam and Sinon are arguing who's worse. Master Adam says, Sinon says, you counterfeited the coin, so you're worse. And then what should Master Adam's response be? You counterfeit the coin, that's pretty bad, but there's something actually worse than counterfeiting the coin, which is what? Yes?
Counterfeiting a gift in the sense that it's a poisoned gift.
That's interesting. What's the worst thing you can do in university? Plagiarism, right? Plagiarism is a lot worse than counterfeiting the coin. Right? If you're at university and you started to counterfeit money, yeah, they might throw you in prison. But if you plagiarized, you would be thrown out of university forever. But, so, what is Sinon plagiarizing? Do you guys know?
Is it something that somebody says in the Bible that...
You read the Iliad, right? What is that plagiarizing?
I can't remember, I'm sorry.
You guys don't learn this in school?
It was just for Latin translation, so...
Oh, okay, so you read parts of it.
The major parts, yeah. But
okay.
What does plagiarizing mean?
Oh,
exactly?
Plagiarism means to steal ideas from other people and pretend it's your own.
Well, he stole poetry, maybe?
From who?
Virgil. And no, not Homer.
Yeah, so Virgil stole from Homer, right? The Iliad stole from the Iliad and the Odyssey, and it corrupted the Iliad and the Odyssey, much the way that a counterfeiter corrupts coin, right? You understand? A counterfeiter takes real gold, dilutes it, adds some lead, and pretend it's real gold. What Virgil did was he stole from the Iliad and the Odyssey, polluted it, and pretend it's real poetry. Do you understand? Okay? So this is drawing attention to the fact that basically Virgil plagiarized Homer. And this is why Virgil is angry, because what does a plagiarizer hate the most? To me? Being found out, right? Being accused of plagiarism. Right? And so Virgil's very, very angry. What's the paradox here? Excuse me?
Is it that he's the guide to hell?
Yeah, like, why is Sinon burning here and Virgil's okay? Right? Because it's Virgil who created the character Sinon and allows Sinon to lie. It's not Sinon that's a problem. It's the Enneads that's a problem. Okay? Does that make sense? Yes?
Like before he died, he was like, please burn all this stuff. That means that his consciousness knows that what he did was wrong. So he sort of repented before he died.
Yeah, but if he repented, then where should he be?
Heaven.
No, actually.
Okay. Limbo.
No.
But which he is. But...
No, he should be in purgatory.
Purgatory, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's not the answer. Okay. It's possible, right? But again, this is raising a paradox, which is like, why is Sinon here when the real culprit, Virgil, the plagiarist, he's walking free around hell, he's able to control hell, he's able to decide that Cassius and Brutus will be tortured by Lucifer. Well, yes?
Well, I think because Sinon actually believes that he did something wrong and Virgil believes that he did nothing wrong when he stole So I think Virgil already forgave himself for what he did, but Sinon can't forgive himself for what he did to the Trojans.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, does Sinon think he did anything wrong? He knows he lied, but did he do anything wrong?
Is it that Virgil admits that he did plagiarism by being angry at being accused of plagiarism?
Well, no, he's angry because he doesn't want to admit it, right? Okay. So again, this creates all these paradoxes here, and so I want you guys to keep this at the back of your mind. Why is it that Virgil is not punished at all for his crimes? And why is hell structured the way it is? Yes?
So if Virgil is basically like Lucifer, then his main aim is to deceive Dante. So therefore he can't, in front of Dante, be seen to be punished for his sins.
But I don't understand this. His main aim is to deceive Dante, to tempt Dante. I understand that, but why would he be allowed to do that? Yes?
I think that he's made the master of hell, and one of the key things of the Aeneid was about duty and the killing of Turnus. And I was thinking about this, why it's such a beautiful thing that Virgil is the guide and master of hell, that many, many people who sin do so because they feel forced by themselves. And so Virgil's not being punished, but his punishment is that he has to guide everybody around, because it's the very force that the Aeneid put into people's hearts that made them sin in years to come.
Okay, that's interesting, but the fact is that Virgil's not the guide of hell. He's the guide to Dante. He was appointed by Beatrice to be the guide, but he's usually in limbo. Okay, but he can wander around hell. He knows hell very well, right? If he's able to climb Lucifer, then he knows hell like the back of his hand. So, but again, these are all paradoxes, and as we go into Purgatory, the answers will be revealed to us. Okay. All right. So this is Purgatory 1.
Purgatory, Canto 1. To course across more kindly waters now, my talent's little vessel lifts her sails, leaving behind herself a sea so cruel. And what I sing will be that second kingdom in which the human soul is cleansed of sin, becoming worthy of ascent to heaven. But here, since I am yours, O holy muses, may this poem rise again from hell's dead realm, and may Calliope rise somewhat here, accompanying my singing with that music whose power struck the poor Pierides so forcefully that they despaired of pardon. The gentle hue of oriental sapphire in which the sky's serenity was steeped, its aspect pure as far as the horizon.
Okay, so let me test your memory, okay? So again, there's parallelism, symmetry in the Divine Comedy. Here he's saying, I now want to write about Purgatory. I now sing about Purgatory, so muses come and give me inspiration, okay? In Paradise, when he was writing about the heavens, who did he call to inspire him? Apollo and the muses. Okay, do you understand? So he's saying here, Purgatory, the muses inspire me, but in heaven, I need everyone, Apollo, the muses, everyone to fully inspire me. Okay, keep on going.
Line 16. Brought back my joy in seeing justice noon, as I had left behind the air of death that had afflicted both my sight and breast. The lovely planet that is patroness of love made all the eastern heavens glad, veiling the Pisces in the train she led. Then I turned to the right, setting my mind upon the other pole, and saw 4 stars not seen before except by the first people. Heaven appeared to revel in their flames, O northern hemisphere, because you were denied that sight. You're a widower. After my eyes took leave of those four stars, turning a little toward the other pole, from which the wane had disappeared by now, I saw a solitary patriarch near me, his aspect worthy of such reverence that even son to father owes no more. His beard was long and mixed with white, as were the hairs upon his head, and his hair spread down to his chest in a divided tress. The rays of the 4 holy stars so framed his face with light that in my sight he seemed like one who's confronted by the sun.
Okay, stop. Okay, so the solitary patriarch, he is the master of purgatory, and his name is Cato. Can someone tell me why having Cato as the master of purgatory is such a paradox? Yes?
Because he was born before the time of Jesus, so he should be in limbo.
Exactly. Okay, number one is he is not a Christian. He is not a Christian. Virgil told us explicitly that unless you are baptized, you cannot leave limbo. Yes?
I think, if my memory serves historically, that Cato was seen to be somebody who was so talented that whenever he did anything, it was like he had done it from birth, like he knew how to do it from birth. So for him to be the master of purgatory, that you live and then this is your journey to heaven, it's ironic because he seemed to have grasped everything very quickly in his life.
Okay, sure. Okay, but that's not necessarily a paradox. Like the fact that he is not a Christian, that's a paradox. But there are some other paradoxes as well. Why should Cato not be in purgatory? In fact, he should be infernal. Why?
Was he amongst the people who killed Caesar?
No, but he rebelled against Caesar,
Yes. Okay,
right?
very well.
He rebelled against Caesar. He was on the side of Pompey. So if I'm trying to figure this out, if Julius Caesar is in limbo, and if the people who killed Julius Caesar, Brutus and Cassius, are the worst people in the world, and Cato fought against Caesar, why is Caesar master of purgatory? Okay, that's another paradox. And there's one more paradox, and this is actually the biggest paradox. How did he die? Suicide, right? Suicide. In Catholic theology at this time, suicide goes straight to hell. No questions, no doubts, straight to hell, guys, okay? So we have 3 axes against Cato. He's not a Christian. He rebelled against Caesar, and he killed himself, okay? So he should be in a circle of violence with the other people who committed suicide. He should be a tree, and now he's master of purgatory. So something is really weird going on, okay? Yes?
I'm not sure why he committed suicide, but I would guess it's because of his honor for whatever the side that he served for Pompey, I would guess maybe.
He committed suicide because his side was losing, and Caesar was offering clemency to everyone, right? And so what was going to happen is Caesar would have come to Cato and said, Cato, I forgive you, and will you please be a senator? And Cato's like, I don't want this crap. I'm going to kill myself because that's the honorable thing to do, right? He did not want to give Julius Caesar the opportunity to show clemency. So that's pretty bad, right? I mean, to kill yourself for this, like it's kind of petty, really, right? All right. So that's Cato, and Cato and Virgil knew each other, right? They are contemporaries. So Virgil and Dante are now in purgatory. Cato comes up and he sees Virgil. How should he react? I mean, how would you react if you saw someone from like a previous life? Yeah, you'd be pretty happy, right? You'd be pretty happy, like a childhood best friend who you haven't seen for like 40 years. You're like, oh my God, I run into you in the streets of Rome. Let's chat. Let's get a coffee. Let's reminisce, right? Yes?
Is this a suspicion that Virgil put Cato there in some way? Or that he was responsible for Cato being placed there?
In purgatory? Okay, because Virgil, where's Virgil?
At this moment or in general?
In general.
In limbo.
In limbo, right? And why is he in limbo?
Because he was brought up there as by.
There's only one reason why he's in limbo, according to Virgil. He's not a Christian, right? He was not baptized as a Christian. That's the only reason, right? So it doesn't make any sense why he would tell us this and then put Cato in purgatory, okay? All right. So, yeah, we would imagine that Virgil and Cato are good friends and it would be a happy reunion. Okay, let's keep on reading.
Line 40. Who are you? Who against the hidden river were able to escape the eternal prison, he said, moving those venerable plumes. Who was your guide? What served you both as lantern when, from the deep night that will always keep the hellish valley dark, you were set free? The laws of the abyss, have they been broken? Or has a changed decree in heaven let you, though damned, approach my rocky slopes?
There's a really ironic sentence here. What is it? What's the really ironic sentence in the speech? It's really ironic. And nope. Where should Cato be? He should be in limbo at least, right? So what does he say that's kind of ironic? It's like, what?
That he knows what hell is like?
No, I'm saying, like, what did he say in the speech that's ironic?
Where you're able to escape.
Yeah, like, how did you get here? It's like, well, okay, Cato, but how did you get here, right? That's kind of ironic. Right? How are you able to escape the eternal prison? The idea of the eternal prison is like, no one can escape it. But he did. All right, so it's ironic. All right, keep on going.
Line 49. My guide took hold of me decisively by way of words and hands and other signs. He made my knees and brow show reverence. Then he replied, I do not come through my own self. There was a lady sent from heaven. Her please let me to help and guide this man. But since your will would have a far more full and accurate account of our condition, my will cannot withhold what you request. This man had yet to see his final evening, but through his folly little time was left before he did. He was so close to it. As I have told you, I was sent to him for his deliverance. The only road I could have taken was the road I took. I showed him all the people of perdition. Now I intend to show to him those spirits who, in your care, are bent on expiation. To tell you how I led him would take long. It is a power descending from above that helped me guide him here, to see and hear you. Now may it please you to approve his coming. He goes in search of liberty, so precious as he who gives his life for it must know. You know it, who in Utica found death for freedom was not bitter, when you left the garb that will be bright on the great day.
Okay, so he's Virgil's referencing how Cato killed himself in Utica rather than submit to Caesar. Okay? All right, keep on going.
Line 76. Eternal edicts are not broken for us. This man's alive, and I'm not bound by Minos. But I am from the circle where the chaste eyes of your Marcia are, and she still prays to you, O holy breast, to keep her as your own, for her love then inclined to us. Allow our journey through your 7 realms. I shall thank her for kindness you bestow, if you would let your name be named below.
Okay, so Virgil is telling Cato why they're here, and Virgil explains that Dante is not dead, so he can move around, and he was never sentenced to the inner circles of hell, so he's free to move around. And also, Cato, hey, your wife Marcia, she's with me, and if you help us, then I'll go back and help Marcia. Okay? Does it sound like friends to you? All right, well, we'll keep on reading, okay?
Line 85. While I was there within the other world, Marcia so pleased my eyes. He then replied, each kindness she required, I satisfied.
Okay, so he's saying before he was in limbo. Okay? Right? Before I was in limbo with Marcia. Keep on going.
Now that she dwells beyond the evil river, she has no power to move me any longer. Such was the law decreed when I was freed. But if a lady come from heaven speeds and helps you, as you say, there's no need of flattery. It is enough indeed to ask me for her sake. Go then, but first wind a smooth rush around his waist and bathe his face to wash away all of hell's stains. For it would not be seemly to approach with eyes still dimmed by any mists the first custodian angel, one from paradise. This solitary island, all around its very base, there where the breakers pound, bears rushes on its soft and muddy ground. There's no other plant that lives below, no plant with leaves or plant that as it grows hardens and breaks beneath the waves' harsh blows. That done, do not return by this same path. The sun which rises now will show you how this hillside can be climbed more easily.
So, Virgil says, how does Cato respond to Virgil's speech? Anyone?
Rather sarcastic? Or
Does he like
No.
Virgil? He hates Virgil. He's like, don't mention Marcia to me, you asshole. Okay? I want to help you because Beatrice told me to, but that's why, not because you can help Marcia. Okay? So they're like enemies. They don't really like each other. And this makes you question who Virgil really is, right? What is Cato not like Virgil, yes?
In line 95, 96, he tells him that his face and his body should be washed of hell, basically. So he knows that Virgil is hell itself, or like he has so many like.
Yeah, this is
values,
a
like-
really interesting reading, right? So literally it just means Dante has been through hell and his face is dirty, right? Because hell is like lots of dirt and fire. So go wash your face because this is purgatory. But you can also say that it's metaphorical in that Virgil has corrupted Dante in this journey by feeding him a lot of lies about hell. So what's important is for Dante to begin to cleanse himself of Virgil's lies, okay? Right, to remove Virgil's influence from himself. Yeah, that's a very interesting reading. Yes. Okay. All right. Let's keep on reading.
Line 109. With that he vanished, and without a word I rose and drew in closer to my guide, and it was on him that I set my eyes. And he began, "Son, follow in my steps. Let us go back. This is the point at which the plain slopes down to reach its lowest bounds. Daybreak was vanquishing the dark last hour, which fled before it. In the distance I could recognize the trembling of the sea. We made our way across the lonely plain like one returning to a lost pathway, who till he finds it seems to move in vain. When we had reached the point where dew contents the sun and undersea winds in the shade wins out because it won't evaporate, my master gently placed both of his hands outspread upon the grass. Therefore, aware of what his gesture and intention were, I reached and offered him my tear-stained cheeks, and on my cheeks he totally revealed the color that Inferno had concealed. Then we arrived at the deserted shore, which never yet had seen its waters coursed by any man who journeyed back again. There, just as pleased another, he girt me. Oh wonder, where he plucked the humble plant that he had chosen, there that plant sprang up again, identical immediately.
Okay, so we are in the beaches of Purgatory. Okay, so Purgatory is a mountain. In order to cleanse yourself, you climb up this mountain, and in each terrace of the mountain, you have to do an activity to cleanse yourself of the 7 deadly sins. But we are not on the mountain yet. We are outside the mountain on the beaches. This is a place called anti-purgatory, which is people who repented late in life. And so they must wait and fully serve their penance before they're allowed to enter purgatory. Once they enter purgatory and they cleanse themselves, then they are able to ascend to heaven, okay? Yes?
So is there a sense of time in purgatory?
That's a really good question. So what Dante is going to do a lot is talk about the sunrise, okay? And one thing that's really important to keep in mind is that the rules governing purgatory are different from the rules governing hell. Hell is like eternal torment. There's no time. It's all just fire and darkness. But in purgatory, there's night and day. And you can only climb during the day. At night, you have to rest. And this can be very important for us because during the night, you dream, right? So the dreams are going to be very important as well. Okay, so there's time, but I don't know how to tell time because a lot of this is astronomy, right? Reading the stars, figure out where the sun is, and I actually don't know how that works. Okay.
Because you say that the mind creates time and space to see reality or like to perceive reality.
Right.
So, did we create time in purgatory to serve purgatory, or like is time out of ourselves in that sense?
Okay, this is a really interesting question because one very important idea in purgatory is that you have to serve your time, right? It could be 1,000,000 years and it could be 1,000 years. And so I think the idea of time in purgatory is that it's not physical time, right? It's not like, you actually keep a clock and you wait 10,000 years. It's really about emotional time. So basically it's like you're meditating and you're meditating and trying to cleanse your soul. And we don't actually know physically how much time it takes, okay? But there is a time element to it. Does that make sense? Okay, so I really don't understand time that well in purgatory, okay? All right, let's keep on reading.
Canto 2. By now the sun was crossing the horizon of the meridian whose highest point covers Jerusalem, and from the Ganges night, circling opposite the sun, was moving together with the scales that, when the length of dark defeats the day, desert night's hands. So that above the shore that I had reached, the fair Aurora's white and scarlet cheeks were, as Aurora aged, becoming orange. We still were by the sea, like those who think about the journey they will undertake, who go in heart but in the body stay. And just as Mars, when it is overcome by the invading mists of dawn, glows red above the water's plain, low in the west, so there appeared to me, and may I see it again, a light that crossed the sea. So swift, there's no flight of bird to equal it. When for a moment I'd withdrawn my eyes that I might ask the question of my guide, I saw that light again, larger and more bright.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so to continue your question, clearly there's time here, right? And there was no time in hell. So we discussed how we create time and space with our imagination. So I think the idea here is that in hell, we're just trapped in hell. There is no time and space because we're just trapped there. Whereas in purgatory, there's now motion, meaning there's now free will, meaning there is now agency. There's more. You can now actively participate in life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but Cato was Cato was in hell before, right? So how did he escape without a free will? If you say there's no free will in hell.
Yeah, that again is a paradox. Okay, and here we will just have to use our imagination. Does anyone know how we can resolve this paradox? Yes?
My memory is quite hazy, but I thought that maybe it was Jesus or some redeeming force who is shunting people up, shunted the very best souls up from Inferno, and that they didn't make it to heaven, but then they were either in limbo or therefore in purgatory.
Exactly, yeah. So what we know is that Jesus did take away with him the best souls. But the people he took were like of the Hebrew Bible, right? David, Abraham, Moses. What is Cato doing with them? Okay, so this is hard, okay? But one possible solution is this. So what we learn in paradise is that there are certain people who are born before the time of Jesus. And even though they were not officially Christian and that they were baptized, they were Christian, that their heart was in the right place. Okay? And they knew that Jesus was coming, and so they prepared for the coming of Jesus, even though they did not see Jesus in their lifetime. Does that make sense? And Cato must have been one of these individuals who knew Jesus was coming, and he submitted himself before Jesus, even though, and he didn't live long enough for the coming of Jesus. And when Jesus went down to hell, he could see that Cato, even though he was not officially Christian, he was in his heart Christian. Okay? Does that make sense, guys? Yeah, yes?
With the Catholic doctrine as
Yes,
well. That's why
yes.
Catholic is very well embracing, not really, but I don't know if it's the right word, but yeah, of the people who fundamentally, in essence, has these doctrines or, live out the life of faith, however you define faith. But yeah.
Yeah. And later on, we will discover people who are actually like that, okay? They did not convert to Christianity in their lifetime, but in their hearts, they were Christian, okay? Before Jesus came, they were already Christian. And that's why they were able to ascend to purgatory as well as to paradise, okay? We'll learn more about this later on, right? Yes?
Yeah, but I have a question because just you said only your heart is not enough for you to go to the heaven, but you have to baptize, right? Or
Yeah, but that's what they're saying here. It's not the act that matters. It's the heart that matters. It's the will and the desire that matters. Okay? Okay. Yes?
Jesus also said that greater is he who has faith before he has seen it. So it's a lot of these people before he was born sort of believed in him or believed in some sort of this idea of redemption or Messiah. Then they have greater faith than the disciples like Peter or John who has seen them put their hands through Jesus, Peter's hands. That, these forefathers, whoever they are in the earth, deserves.
Yes, okay. So that's a logic, okay? And again, we'll never know. It's just a paradox created by the Divine Comedy. But this is one way to resolve this paradox. All right? Okay.
Line 22. Then to each side of it I saw a whiteness, though I did not know what the whiteness was. Below, another whiteness slowly showed. My master did not say a word before the whitenesses first seen appeared as wings. But then when he had recognized the helmsman, he cried, bend your knees, behold the angel of God, and join your hands. From this point on, this is the kind of minister you'll meet.
Okay, so it's these angels that are guardians of purgatory, okay? Before in hell, there were these demons. Now there are these angels. So at each major checkpoint, there are these angels. Keep on going.
Line 31. See how much scorn he has for human means. He'd have no other sail than his own wings and use no oar between such distant shores. See how he holds his wings, pointing to heaven, piercing the air with his eternal pinions, which do not change as mortal plumage does. Then he, that bird divine, as he drew closer and closer to us, seemed to gain in brightness, so that my eyes could not endure his nearness. And I was forced to lower them, and he came on to shore with boat so light, so quick that nowhere did the water swallow it. The helmsman sent from heaven at the stern seemed to have blessedness inscribed upon him. More than 100 spirits sat within. In Exectu Israel de Egyptu, with what is written after of that psalm, of all of the spirits sang as with one voice. Then over them he made the holy cross a sign. They flung themselves down on the shore, and he moved off as he had come swiftly. The crowd that he had left along the beach seemed not to know the place. They looked about like those whose eyes try out things new to them. Upon all sides the sun shot forth the day, and from mid-heaven its incisive arrows already had chased Capricorn away, when those who just arrived lifted their heads toward us and said, "Do show us, if you know, the way by which we can ascend this slope." And Virgil answered, You may be convinced that we're quite familiar with this shore, but we're strangers here, just as you are. We came but now a little while before you, though by another path so difficult and dense that this ascent seems sport to us. The souls who, noticing my breathing, sensed that I was still a living being, then out of astonishment turned pale, and just as people crowd around a messenger who bears an olive branch to hear his news, and no one hesitates to join that crush, so here those happy spirits, all of them, stared hard at my face, just as if they had forgotten to proceed to their perfection. I saw one of those spirits moving forward in order to embrace me, his affection so great that I was moved to mime his welcome.
Okay, stop. Okay, all right. So again, this is mirroring hell. Remember how when Virgil took Dante into hell, they had to cross the river Acheron, right? And there's all these souls lining up to cross the river. And the same thing is happening here, where there's souls lining up to cross the river into Purgatory, the area before the mountain. Can you explain to me, or just list for me, the differences between these two groups? The first group in hell, second group in Purgatory. What are the differences you notice? It's pretty stark, actually, these differences. What are they doing here that souls didn't do in hell?
Looking around for the
Yes,
new
this is
environment.
very important, okay, to understand. They're curious. Okay? Remember, and like it's very explicit, the line, right? Their eyes try, look at line 54. Whose eyes try out things new to them. They're curious. They want to learn. Okay? It's pretty stark. That's one, they're curious. What's the other thing? Yes?
Asking about the place.
They talk, man. Think about it. How in hell, the souls just didn't talk. Right? They talk, they ask questions, yes?
I feel like in spirit they feel a lot more optimistic.
Yeah, they're active, right? Whereas in Inferno, they were passive. They were just indifferent. Nothing could move them. Yes?
73. So here, those happy spirits, all of them stare hard at my face. So it's like they're really happy. Like people in hell, just not very happy.
That's right. They're happy. They're optimistic. Exactly. Yes. And also, what are they doing that never happens in hell? They're embracing each other. They're touching each other. What else? What are they doing here that never happens in hell, but happens a lot in heaven? Seeing, right? Look at line 46. Right? 46 to 48. Those spirits sang with one voice, okay? So this is a pretty strict dichotomy. Right? That the souls in hell were passive, indifferent. They just accept their fate. Whereas here, the souls are curious. They want to learn. So what's this really saying about who's in hell and who's in purgatory? Who goes to hell? Who goes to purgatory? Yes?
Hell is a place of inactivity or being very passive and no curiosity, no consciousness, no wanting to learn or improve, no agency. And then purgatory is like, we sin a little bit, but we're still happy. We still want to try to get better. We're just people at fault, but we are still trying.
Exactly. Yes?
Just similar to that they have an optimistic mindset, a growth mindset.
It's attitude, right? It's they choose. It's like, do you guys know Carol Dwight, right? Carol Dwight, yeah, you probably know her. But you know, she's a Stanford psychologist, and she says that in life, there are those who succeed and those who fail, and the main difference is in attitude, right? Those who succeed have a growth mindset, which is to say they're always looking to get better. Okay, they accept adversity, they accept failure as opportunities to improve themselves, whereas fixed mindset don't believe they can ever improve, and they just accept things as they are. They're afraid of failure, okay? And that's the difference between hell and purgatory. Okay? So this is radical because Cato shows us it's not necessarily what you do that condemns you to hell or purgatory. It's what your attitude is, what you believe, what you choose to do. That's important. Okay, your mindset. That's important. Okay, does that make sense? All right. Let's keep on reading.
Line 79. O shades, in all except appearance empty, 3 times I clasped my hands behind him and as often brought them back against my chest. Dismay, I think, was painted on my face at this, that shadow smiled as he withdrew, and I, still seeking him, again advanced. Gently he said that I could now stand back. Then I knew who he was, and I beseeched him to remain a while and talk with me. He answered, as I loved you when I was within my mortal flesh, so freed I love you. Therefore I stay. But you, why do you journey? My own Casella, to return again to where I am, I journey thus. But why, I said, were you deprived of so much time? And he, no injury is done to me, if he who takes up whom and when he pleases has kept me from this crossing many times. For his own will derives from a just will, and yet for 3 months now he has accepted, most tranquilly, all those who would embark. Therefore I, who had turned then to the shore, at which the Tiber's water makes the salt, was gathered in by his benevolence. Straight to that river mouth he set his wings, that always is the place of gathering for those who do not sink to Acheron. And I, if there's no new law that denies you memory or practice of the songs of love that used to quiet all my longings, then may it please you with those songs to solace my soul somewhat. For having journeyed here together with my body, it is weary. Love that discourses to me in my mind. He then began to sing, and sang so sweetly that I still hear that sweetness sound in me. My master, I, and all that company around the singer seemed so satisfied, as if no other thing might touch our minds. We all were motionless and fixed upon the notes, when all at once the grave old man cried out, what have we here, you laggard spirits? What negligence, what lingering is this? Quick, to the mountain to cast off the slough that will not let you see God show himself.
Okay, so Dante sees an old friend from Florence. This friend has died, and they're very happy to see each other. Okay, this is a contrast between when Virgil and Cato saw each other. Okay, they reminisce, they talk about their past, and then Cato sees him and says like get out of here, stop lingering, right? Move on. Okay. So there's a contrast here. And again, Dante does this a lot. Okay? Keep on going.
Line 124. Even as doves assembled where they feed, quietly gathering their grain or weeds, forgetful of their customary strut, will if something appears that makes them fear, immediately leave their food behind, because they're assailed by greater care. So did I see that new company. They left the song behind, turned toward the slope like those who go and yet do not know where, and we were no less hasty in departure.
Okay, let's continue.
Okay. Canto 3. But while their sudden flight was scattering those souls across the plain and toward the mountain where we're racked by rightful punishments, I drew in closer to my true companion, for how could I have run ahead without him? Who could have helped me as I climbed the mountain? He seemed like one who, stung by self-reproof, O pure and noble conscience, you in whom each petty fault becomes a harsh rebuke. And when his feet had left off hurrying, for haste denies all acts their dignity, my mind, which was before too focused, grew more curious and widened its attention. I set my vision toward the slope that rises most steeply, up to heaven from the sea. Behind my back the sun was flaming red, but there ahead of me its light was shattered because its rays were resting on my body. And when I saw the ground was dark in front of me and me alone, afraid that I had been abandoned, I turned to my side. And he, my only comfort as he turned around, began, why must you still mistrust? Don't you believe that I am with and guide you? The body from within which I cast shadows is buried where it now is evening. taken from Brindisi, it now belongs to Naples. Thus, if no shadow falls in front of me, do not be more amazed than when you see the heavens not impede each other's rays. The power has disposed such bodiless bodies to suffer torments, heat and cold. How this is done, he would not have us know. Foolish is he who hopes our intellect can reach the end of that unending road. Only one substance in three persons follows. Confine yourself, O humans, to the quia. Had you been able to see all, there would have been no need for Mary to give birth.
Okay, stop. Okay, all right. So this is actually a very important part of this poem. So I want to analyze it in depth. Okay, first of all, explain to me what the relationship now is between Virgil and Dante. How would you describe the relationship? Yes?
Like Dante's a little bit like a teenager, so Virgil has given birth to him, and now he still really trusts him and likes him, but he sees that he doesn't have a shadow, and that's one of the ways that you can climb the mountain, because you're walking towards your shadow, trying to deal with your sin. And so he's thinking, how much of a guide is he really going to be if he's clearly not from here and he's not an expert of this place?
Okay. That's one way to interpret it, but I kind of disagree with that. Okay. How does Dante feel about Virgil? So again, the idea is that Dante has a body, so he's able to see his own shadow. Virgil doesn't have a body, and you can't see a shadow. This was not a problem in hell because there were no shadows in hell. This is a problem here in Purgatory, right? Why is Dante upset about not seeing Virgil's shadow? Yes?
Dante may be upset that he can feel that he's getting close to overtaking Virgil, outgrowing him.
No. Yes?
Dante's very insecure, and he felt that he's abandoned by Virgil.
I think so. I think it's not. I think it's insecurity, right? It's like he needs Virgil constantly beside him. He can't see the shadow. He's nervous. Like, where's Virgil? And Virgil's like, don't worry. I'm still with you. I'm gonna guide you. Relax, man. Okay? That's exactly what they're saying here. Okay? Does that make sense? So it shows you how dependent Dante has become on Virgil. It is Virgil who lifted Dante out of hell, and now Dante is now dependent on Virgil to lift him up to Purgatory. Okay? And again, this is a pilgrimage. This is a journey where Dante has to learn to become independent. Okay, now a really important tercet. Okay, I want you to focus on this tercet. Is 34 to 39. Okay, I want to focus on this. This is like really important. Foolish is he who hopes our intellect can reach the end of that unending road. Only one substance in three persons follows. What is this referring to? Trinity, but what is the one substance?
The monad.
Excuse me?
The monad.
No, the substance. What's the substance? Love, right? Who said the Trinity is three persons and they all have the same substance? Who said that? Dante, when Peter was asking him, what is faith? Do you believe in the Holy Trinity? He's like, I do. I believe that the Trinity exists. They all come from the same essence, which is love. Okay? So, this is what Dante will say in heaven. Confine yourselves, O humans, to a quay. Have not been able to see all, there would have been no need for Mary to give birth. Okay? Have been no need for Mary to give birth. What Virgil is saying is, what? No need for Mary to give birth. What could he say? What could he say instead of this? or, something much more appropriate to Christian theology. If we knew better, then there would be no need for what to happen? For Jesus to come, right? Why is it there would be no need for Mary to give birth? Who says this? Who says this?
Dante.
Dante as well. Okay. Well, no, actually not Dante. Bernard says this in Paradise, right? It is Mary giving birth that is the true miracle, not Jesus sacrificing himself. This is all coming from the mouth of Virgil. Do you understand? And these ideas will be presented to us in Paradise. What's the paradox here? Yes?
Where did he get to know these if what he said in Paradise was something that he's supposed to learn from his journey?
Yeah, like this is really confusing for us because we just said Virgil is in limbo and Virgil could possibly be the master of hell. This is our speculation. We don't have evidence this is the case. How is it, suppose he's never been to Paradise, how is he able to know this stuff? Right? We'll discover this stuff in Paradise, but we're in Purgatory right now. And Virgil has spent all of eternity in limbo. Where's he getting this stuff from? These are things that Dante will discover once in heaven. But already Virgil understands this stuff. How can we explain this paradox?
Yeah, I just guess maybe Jesus got two sides. One side is Jesus, another side is Lucifer. How about? Is it possible?
Okay, so you're saying that Virgil is both Lucifer and Jesus. That's interesting, yes?
Maybe when he's saying foolish is he's talking about himself in the past tense. That when he got brought out of Inferno, if he was there, that process gave him the knowledge that ascension requires faith in true love. But he didn't need to be told that. He just, because...
But no, so I'm trying to figure out how he knows this stuff, right? I'm trying to figure out how he knows two things that are revealed to us in heaven. The first is that the Holy Trinity has one essence, which is love. So God is love, basically, right? Second thing is, like, he knows that Mary is the one who redeemed us, not Jesus. He knows this. So I'm saying, how could he know this?
He was there.
He went there.
He went there. He was there.
He went there. And how did he end up in limbo?
Like you said, he chose us not to be there. He was like, oh, this place is great, but I have to be like a servant to God and don't want to do that, so I'm just coming back.
He could have gone there because he's explicit, right? You cannot leave hell unless, or you can't go to heaven unless you're a Christian, right? Yes?
Did Beatrice tell him when she assigned him the task?
Why would Beatrice tell him this stuff?
Fine.
I'm like, yes?
Dante guesses it and ascribes it to Virgil.
No. Virgil's a teacher. Virgil's a father. Dante is a student and a son, right? So Dante would never be as presumptuous as to teach this to Virgil. And Dante does not know this yet, right? He only knows this when he goes up to heaven. So how can Virgil know this?
Well, technically, Lucifer was really close to God.
Right. Keep on going.
Right. So and therefore he understands the essence, the substance, the three persons, and therefore, I don't know, a fragment of Lucifer is with Virgil.
Okay. That's a good start. Okay. That's very close. Keep on going. Keep on going on that logic. Yes?
For the devil to distort the truth means that he knows the truth very well in its fabrics, to be able to tear it apart, deconstruct it, cancel it.
Yes.
So then he probably revealed that to Virgil, like, this is the essence, but we were like try to divert.
Well, no. Okay,
Maybe.
The first part was right. The second part is like, you're assuming Lucifer talked to Virgil, right?
True, but he can't talk.
But Lucifer can't talk. So how does Virgil know this? Yes?
It's the opposite of what happens, of what he sees of Lucifer in hell. So it's like 3 sinners are digested into one substance, which is evil, and that it's the opposite of the Immaculate Conception.
Okay, so that's an interesting theory, okay? And that explains the Trinity. It doesn't explain Mary. Okay? Who is Virgil? What does he do? He's a poet. And who are poets? They're channeling God, right? You understand? This is how Dante is able to write this. He's channeling God. He actually Dante probably doesn't even know what he's writing, okay? We're probably better at analyzing this poetry than Dante. I mean, like, I'm not exaggerating. Dante is just like singing the truth of the universe. He doesn't really know what he's singing. And that's what a poet is. A poet is a vessel for the divine fire. Okay? So, if Virgil knows this truth, but he wrote the Iliad, what is it saying about Virgil? To me?
That Virgil is more or less a Lucifer figure.
But why is he Lucifer?
Because he knows the truth, but chose to not to tell the truth.
No, yes?
Well, I mean, in a way, he was forced by Augustus to, like, speak poetry, but like use it for a empire way.
So in God's eyes, what did you do?
Well, you betrayed God.
You betrayed God. Yeah. You understand? The great betrayer is Virgil, not Lucifer. Okay? Just think about this. Does that make sense, guys? Because God gave you the greatest gift possible, which is poetry, which is divine truth. And you distorted it in order to serve empire. That's the great betrayal, right? Who is Lucifer? Lucifer is someone who betrayed God in order to seek power. Yes?
Then why is Virgil in limbo?
That's a really good question. Yes.
Is it because he left an Easter egg that when Aeneas is about to kill Turnus, he debates it a lot, and then he sees Pallas's sword belt on Turnus, and that's what makes him finally kill him. But we don't know whether that's fully true or not, but at least it's maybe Virgil saying that there was another thing which made me make Aeneas kill Turnus in the Aeneid, and it wasn't just the whole message. That it seemed kind of like a red herring that it was Pallas's sword belt that made him kill Turnus when it was his divine destiny to do so anyway.
Okay, that's a good point, okay? So, like, try to visualize what's happening, okay? God gave Virgil the divine fire, okay? Just as he gave Dante the divine fire. Just as he gave Shakespeare the divine fire, okay? This is all divine fire. This is not yours. This is God's, okay? And then Augustus says, okay, you know what? Give me that divine fire and we'll craft a weapon together. Well, if you do that, if you put the divine light into the weapon, someone's going to leak out. Does that make sense? And that's why there's so many inconsistencies in the Iliad, including the one where Aeneas shows mercy, or what show mercy to Turnus, and then in the end decides to come anyway, okay? So there are a lot of inconsistencies in the Iliad because you're trying to weaponize divine fire, and divine fire does not want to be weaponized, okay? It's meant to like enlighten the world. It's not meant to be directed as a weapon of empire. All right? But do you guys understand this idea that Virgil is the great betrayer because God gave him divine fire, and rather than enlighten the world like what Dante is doing with Divine Comedy, he chooses to corrupt it in a way that serves empire for his own personal benefit. And this is a great betrayal of humanity, right? Imagine if Jesus came and he's like, screw this mission, I'm going to side with the Romans. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because, like, I don't get crucified, and the Romans are going to give me $1 trillion. Screw this mission. Right? Isn't that a great betrayal of God? And it's also a betrayal of humanity, yes.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the Jews hated Jesus for, because they really wanted a real Messiah who was a militant leader, just like Julius Caesar. They really wanted Jesus
That's right.
to side,
That's
well,
right.
not side with the Romans, but fight against the Romans. That's why they denied him the title of Messiah.
That's right. Exactly. Because Jesus was a prophet of peace and they wanted a prophet of war. Yes. Okay? Does that make sense? So again, we're speculating, but like again, it's a huge problem for us how these two ideas, where God is love and Mary is what redeemed us, these are the two main ideas of paradise. How are they appearing in the mouth of Virgil? Right? And the answer is, well, because he had access to divine fire, but he chose to corrupt it. But it doesn't answer the question is like, how did Virgil end up in limbo?
As a poet, it's where he can be the most creative, because heaven is kind of a place you can't touch or manipulate, whereas in hell he can create his own story and also put who he wants in it.
Yes.
And like as we see, hell is basically created by Virgil, and he knows the place because he created it.
Exactly. Okay. So one explanation is that Virgil created hell and Dante created heaven. Okay. So ultimately, what's happening is a war between heaven and hell. A hell conceptualized by Virgil and a heaven conceptualized by Dante. That's one possibility. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So that's like a theory I had about hell, is that Dante is basically entering Virgil's mind.
But he does enter Virgil's mind.
Yeah,
How?
yeah.
How?
Oh, yeah. That's the point I don't understand.
Okay. But how does he enter Virgil's mind?
By going into hell? Or?
No. How does he enter Virgil's mind? In fact, he becomes Virgil's mind because what does he do?
He read the Aeneid.
He read the Aeneid, right? That's what the Aeneid is. It's a mind of Virgil. It is hell. Do you understand? It's a blueprint for hell. Imagine a world in which love is a disease, right? And you can just kill any woman that you want. Okay? Imagine a world without mercy, without forgiveness, right? Your enemy you must kill. You can never show mercy to your enemy. That is hell. No forgiveness, no mercy, no love. Just pure obedience. That's what hell is. Okay? So, the Aeneid is the expression of hell, and the Divine Comedy is the expression of heaven. But, is it possible to read the Divine Comedy without reading the Aeneid? Is it possible? It's not possible because you don't understand what's going on, okay? You understand? There are lots of characters here, and only by reading the Aeneid can you truly appreciate Divine Comedy. So heaven and hell need each other. Okay, they're at war with each other, but they also need each other. They're complementary of each other. Okay, so that's the other idea here. Okay, but that still doesn't answer the. So one possibility is, okay, well, Virgil created hell and Dante created heaven. Okay, but how can we explain another? How can we further explain why Virgil is in limbo and not being punished for betraying God?
I'm not sure if we already answered this in the last question, but could it just be that Dante feels that he couldn't be Dante without Virgil?
Right, so
he appreciates Virgil's
okay,
contribution.
So that's a possibility, right? Dante knows he cannot be Dante without Virgil because, and he says this, like he grew up being nourished and nursed by the Aeneid, right? But why would that lead to Virgil in limbo? Okay, yes?
Virgil is still using imagination, truth, beauty, and poetry, so it's still God's gift. So because he's using that, he's not going to be punished. He's still a creator.
No. That's even worse, right? That's even worse. I mean, like, if you don't know anything and you behave like and you behave like Virgil does, that's one thing. But like to know that you're behaving the wrong way and you still choose to do it, that's even worse. Okay. All right. So let's think about this. In the universe of Dante, where should Virgil be? To me?
In the Inferno.
Which part of the Inferno?
The very bottom, in one of the mouths of Satan.
Yeah,
betraying
right.
God.
right? Because he's the great betrayer, much worse than Satan. He is the great betrayer. And who's there instead?
Cassius.
And Brutus, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think happened? Again, we're only speculating, okay? We're only using our imagination. We're trying to figure out how this system works, right? Because in Dante's framework, Virgil, the place where he belongs, is in the mouth of Lucifer, being chewed to death, because his betrayal is the same as Lucifer's betrayal. Lucifer betrayed God, and Virgil betrayed humanity, right? It's the Ennead that has condemned Europe to 1,000 years of hell, just endless war, endless suffering, okay? No mercy, no love. Yes?
The Divine Comedy Inferno is not Dante's framework, but Virgil's framework.
Right. So that's one possibility. But I'm saying, like, let's consider another possibility, right? Let's just say that Virgil is master of hell, and he can construct hell in any way he wants, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it, even God. What's another possibility? Okay, and the other possibility is, okay, let's go with Dante's framework. And in Dante's framework, Virgil is in the bottom of hell, being chewed and tortured by Lucifer. How would he have gotten out of that situation? Yes?
Only through Dante himself. Like Dante himself puts Virgil into limbo because he loves him so much, maybe, or he forgives him.
Okay. Right. Yes?
He got temporarily moved out by Beatrice and the other ladies from heaven, just for this purpose, but he really doesn't want Dante to know that's the truth. So he just says, like,
that's a possibility. Do you guys understand that? You understand that? Because Beatrice has a problem, right? Beatrice is like, Dante is lost in the woods. Someone has to help him. And who's the only guide possible? Virgil. Problem is, Virgil is in hell being chewed alive because of his betrayal of humanity. But in the world, okay, who does Dante admire the most? Who could guide Dante out of hell? Only Virgil, right? Because only Virgil knows hell that much, because he's at the very bottom. So he understands the very essence of hell. So they might have made a deal, right? Where, and this is all speculation, okay? But you can see how this might work, where Beatrice says to Virgil, okay, we'll give you a special reprieve. You help Dante, and then and then we'll move you to limbo, and then we'll put us in Cassius in your place. Okay, does that make sense?
Metaphorically, it makes sense, because Dante probably wouldn't have written the comedy without Virgil's influence.
Exactly, right? So tomorrow we talked to David Bromwich, and David Bromwich's mentor was Harold Bloom, right? And Harold Bloom wrote a very famous book called Anxiety of Influence. And the very idea of anxiety of influence is how does creation happen? How is it possible for people like Milton and Keats and Shakespeare to create great artwork? And the answer is anxiety of influence, where as a young poet, you are so burdened by a higher poet, right? So Milton was burdened by Shakespeare, and you think that, it's impossible for me to surpass him, and you try your very best to imitate him. You try your very best to become him. But in this process of trying to become him, you recognize the problems in this, and then you develop your own creativity. Okay, does that make sense? You can't do it in a vacuum. You can't do it in a blank slate. You have to fully embrace someone and then defeat that person, right? It is very similar to the father-son dynamic, right? Where you first become a father, then you kill the father, then you become yourself. Not to kill the father, okay? Don't kill your father, but you leave your father behind. This is what's happening right now, literally between Virgil and Dante, okay? Dante has become Virgil's son, and he's trying to become Virgil, but in the process, he will discover the limitations of Virgil and become his own poet. Okay, does that make sense? And it's very similar to the way I teach, where, in the first few days, I was trying to give you a lot of ideas, but over time, as you have your as you have this framework that I've given you, this framework allows you to better analyze the Divine Comedy. And over time, if you keep on doing this, you'll discover I can build my own framework. I don't need this framework anymore, but you first need that framework, okay? Does that make sense? All right? Does that answer your question? Okay? All right. And again, we're only speculating, okay? We're only using our imagination. But you can see how this does explain a lot about what's going on, right? And again, what's really confusing right now is these two great truths of paradise. Virgil already knows. It also shows you the consistency, the totality of Divine Comedy, right? Where all three, Inferno, Purgatory, and Paradise, all line up perfectly. And I don't know how you could do that as a human being. And this is an age before computers. This is an age even before like pen and paper, right? But he's able to do this in his mind. And if you're like, well, it's all him being deliberate and being very careful, well, that doesn't really get you anywhere. But if you're like, okay, all he's doing is channeling the divine fire, well, that explains a lot more, okay? Okay, does that make sense, guys? All right, let's keep on reading.
Line 40. You saw the fruitless longing of those men who would, if reason could, have been content, those whose desire eternally laments. I speak of Aristotle and of Plato and many others. Here he bent his head and said no more, remaining with his sorrow. By this time we had reached the mountain's base, discovering a wall of rock so sheer that even agile legs are useless there. The loneliest, most jagged promontory that lies between Turbia and Lerici, compared with it, provides stairs wide and easy. Now, who knows where along this mountainside, my master halting asked, one finds a rise where even he who has no wings can climb.
Okay, stop. Okay, all right. So he says, you saw the fruitless longing of those men who would, if reason could, have been content, those who desire eternally laments. I speak of Aristotle and Plato and many others. What does he mean by this? What does he mean by this? Yes.
That because they didn't know about the Trinity and those special truths of heaven, they, even though they had great souls and pure souls, they were just eternally desiring to understand the monad, but hadn't been given the two special truths, well, the Immaculate Conception and Trinity. So even though they probably should have made it, they're the ones the most upset that they had.
Yeah, that's close, okay? But I would phrase it differently. Does anyone else want to try? Yeah, you can try again.
Just that they still have a distance between them and the world of the forms. What if you think that's where God resides?
Sure. But we're trying to figure out what causes this distance, okay? What causes this separation between reason and knowledge?
They didn't think they needed faith.
I think it's faith, right? Because explain to me, because only with faith do you understand that it's Mary who redeemed us, not Jesus. It's only with faith that you understand that God is love, okay? You can't prove it. You can't reason it out. Plato and Aristotle, their problem was that they wanted to reason it out. You can't do that. You have to have faith. And from this faith comes your imagination, which then allows you to access the truth. Do you understand the logic? And again, it's amazing because this is what Dante will tell us, will reveal to us in paradise. You need to live a life of faith, hope, and love. And Virgil is already saying this. So Virgil knows this, but he refuses to act it out, okay? He refuses to align will with action. Okay? All right, let's keep on reading.
While he, his eyes upon the ground, consulted his mind, considering what road to take, and I looked up around the wall of rock. Along the left a band of souls appeared to me to be approaching us, but so unhurriedly their movements did not show. Lift up your eyes, I told my master. Here are those who can advise us how to go if you can find no counsel in yourself. At this he looked at them and, less distressed, replied, let us go there. Their steps are slow, and you, my gentle son, hold fast to hope. The distance from that company to us, I mean when we had gone 1,000 paces, was still as far as a fine hurler's toss. When they all huddled toward the hard rock wall, and once they'd crowded there, refused to budge, even as men, when apprehensive, halt. O chosen souls, you have ended well, Virgil began. By virtue of that peace which I believe awaits you all, please tell us where the slope inclines and can be climbed, for he who best discerns the worth of time is most distressed whenever time is lost. Even as sheep that move, first one, then two, then three out of the fold, the others also stand, eyes and muzzles lowered, timidly. And what the first sheep does, the others do, and if it halts, they huddle close behind, simple and quiet and not knowing why. So then I saw those spirits in the front of that flock favored by good fortune move. Their looks were modest, seemly, slow, their walk. As soon as these souls saw, upon my right, along the ground, a gap in the sunlight where shadows stretched from me to the rock wall, they stopped and then drew back somewhat, and all who came behind them, though they did not know why those ahead had halted, also slowed. Without your asking, I shall tell you plainly that you're looking at a human body. That's why the sunlight on the ground is broken. Don't be astonished. Rest assured that he would not attempt to cross this wall without a force that heaven sent him as a thwart. These were my master's words. That worthy man replied, "Come back and move in our direction," and gestured with backhanded motions right. And one of them began, "Whoever you may be, as you move forward, turn and see. Consider if beyond you've ever seen me." I turned to look at him attentively. He was fair-haired and handsome, and his aspect was noble, but one eyebrow had been cleft by a sword stroke. When I had humbly noted that I had never seen him, he said, "Look now," showing me a wound high on his chest. Then, as he smiled, he told me, "I'm Manfred, the grandson of the Empress Constance. Thus I pray that, when you reach the world again, you may go to my lovely daughter, mother of kings of Sicily and Aragon. Tell her the truth, lest she's heard something other." After my body had been shattered by 2 fatal blows, in tears, I then consigned myself to him who willingly forgives. My sins were ghastly, but the infinite goodness has arms so wide that it accepts whoever would return, imploring it. As if Cosenza's bastard, who was sent to hunt me down, alive or dead, by Clement, had understood this facet of God's mercy, my body's bones would still be there beneath the custody of the great heap of stones, near Benevento, at the bridge head. Now rain bathes my bones, the wind has driven them beyond the kingdom, near the Verdi's banks, where he transported them with taper spent. Despite the church's curse, there's no one so lost that the eternal love cannot return, as long as hope shows something green. But it is true that anyone who dies in contumacy of the Holy Church, though he repented at the end, must wait along the shore for 30 times the span he spent in his presumptuousness, unless that edict is abridged through fitting prayers. Now see if you, by making known to my kind Constance where you saw my soul and why delays decreed for me, can make me happy. Those here, through those beyond, advance more quickly.
Okay, so they are moving towards Purgatory. They are anti-Purgatory, right? So they're not yet enter the gates of Purgatory, and they're meeting different souls, and one of them is Manfred. Now Manfred is a royal. He is a king. He's a grandson of the Empress Constance, and he died in battle. And he was excommunicated by the church. Why is this a paradox? He was excommunicated by the church. Why is this a paradox?
Is here.
Yeah, it's straight. It's like go straight to hell card, right?
Yeah.
You're excommunicated. It means that you have been banished from the community of Christians. Doesn't matter if you're baptized. Doesn't matter what you believe. Doesn't matter what you do. You have now been banished from the community of Christianity, and therefore you must now burn in hell. And what does Manfred say? How can we understand this? Yes.
He said, as I was dying, basically in tears, I suddenly was like, "God, please forgive me." And then I know my sins were terrible, but God, spread his arms to me to return. Yeah.
So God is all forgiving, okay? You have a direct connection to God. And, okay, if you get excommunicated by the church, that's bad. But that just means you spend more time in purgatory, okay? Right? So, again, this is revolutionary for this time in history, where the excommunication doesn't really matter that much, okay? What matters is your faith in God. how is it possible to reduce your time in purgatory? Do you guys know? Yes?
Someone who's alive prays for you.
Exactly. Okay. Right? This goes back to the idea in heaven where if an infant dies, but the parents are very virtuous and pray for the infant is given access to heaven. Yes?
I think it also matters whether the prayer is like a good prayer or just like an offhanded prayer. I think there's like a difference between.
Yeah. No commitment, right? You know, if someone's praying for you 8 hours a day, and also the number of people also matter as well. Like if the entire community is praying for you, then that will reduce your time in purgatory, okay? Right. Okay. All right. So let's keep on going.
Canto 4. When any of our faculties retains a strong impression of delight or pain, the soul will wholly concentrate on that, neglecting any other power it has, and this refutes the error that maintains that one above the other, several souls can flame in us. And thus, when something seen or heard secures the soul in stringent grip, time moves, and yet we do not notice it. The power that perceives the course of time is not the power that captures all the mind. The former has no force, the latter binds, and I confirmed this by experience, hearing that spirit and my wonderment. For though the sun had fully climbed 50 degrees, I had not noticed it. And when we came to the point at which in unison those souls cried out to us, "Here's what you want."
Okay, so at this answers your question of time, right? You had a question about time. What does Dante say? Right. So, but what does he mean? Right? We had a question about time, right? So what does Dante say about time? Yes?
The sun has climbed 50 degrees.
Yeah, and that's physical time. But what? Could you yeah. What's he saying here?
Verse 10, the power that perceives the course of time is not the power that captures all the mind. The former has no force, the latter binds. So it's not your perception, it's your imagination.
It's not the perception that matters. What matters? The perception of time doesn't matter. What matters? The emotions, right?
Emotions.
Right? So the power that perceives the course of time is not the power that captures all the mind, okay? Mm-hmm. The power that perceives the course of time has no force. The power that captures all the mind, which is the emotions, that binds, okay? Mm-hmm. All right? So what matters is the emotional time as opposed to the physical time. Mm-hmm. Okay, keep on going.
Line 13, and I confirmed this by experience, hearing that spirit in my wonderment. For though the sun had fully climbed 50 degrees, I had not noticed it. When we came to the point at which in unison those souls cried out to us, "Here's what you want." And then verse 19, the farmer, when the grape is darkening, will often stuff a wider opening with just a little forkful of his thorns. Then was the gap through which my guide and I, which followed after climbed, we two alone, after the company of souls had gone.
Why doesn't he notice the passing of time? Why doesn't he notice the passing of time? Yes?
The changing of the sun's degrees.
Well, that would tell him the time, but he doesn't even notice that. I'm saying, why doesn't he notice the sun, the passing of time? And like, this is just like why don't you notice time?
Because you're perceiving change.
Yes. Why would you not notice time?
Not notice time.
Yeah, why would you not notice time?
If nothing changes.
You know what I'm saying? Like when do you not notice time? Yes?
You're sleeping.
That you lost track
Yeah, when you're
of
happy,
time.
okay?
Yeah.
When you're happy. And why is Sonny very happy? Why is Sonny happy? What?
He's on his way to Beatrice.
No, there's a better reason. He hasn't mentioned Beatrice yet. He's out of hell, right?
Oh.
Okay, he was in hell, and now he's finally out of hell. There's sun. There's people who are happy. He's just really happy right now. Okay, all right. Let's keep on going.
Verse 25. Then Leo can be climbed, one can descend to Noli and ascend Kakume and Bismantova with feet alone. But here I had to fly. I mean with rapid wings and pinions of immense desire behind the guide who gave me hope and was my light. We made our upward way through rifted rock. Along each side the edges pressed on us. The ground beneath required feet and hands. When we had reached the upper rim of that steep bank, emerging on the open slope, I said, "My master, what way shall we take?" And he to me, "Don't squander any steps. Keep climbing up the mountain after me until we find some expert company." The summit was so high, my sight fell short. The slope was far more steep than the line drawn from middle quadrant to the center point. I was exhausted when I made this plea. "Oh, gentle father, turn around and see. I will not left alone. I will be left alone unless you halt." "My son," he said, "draw yourself up to there," while pointing to a somewhat higher terrace, which circles all the slope along that side. His words incited me. My body tried. On hands and knees, I scrambled after him until the terrace lay beneath my feet. There we sat down together, facing east in the direction from which we had come. What joy to look back at a path we've climbed! My eyes were first set on the shores below, and then I raised them toward the sun. I was amazed to find it fall upon our left. And when the poet saw that I was struck with wonder as I watched the chariot of light passing between the north and us, he said to me, "Suppose Castor and Pollux were in conjunction with that mirror there, which takes the light and guides it north and south, then you would see the reddish zodiac still closer to the Bears as it revolves, unless it has abandoned its old track. If you would realize how that should be, then concentrate, imagining this mountain so placed upon this earth that both Mount Zion and it, although in different hemispheres, share one horizon. Therefore you can see, putting your mind to it attentively."
Where is Mount Zion? You guys know? Where's Mount Zion?
Probably in
Mount Zion? Come on, guys.
in Israel.
Egypt. No.
Jerusalem, right? Zionists? Come on, man. Zionists, right? Mount Zion. So what he's saying is that Purgatory and Jerusalem are opposite of each other. Does that make sense? Okay. So yeah. Yeah. What is the relationship between Dante and Virgil? How would you describe the relationship? Susie? No. Yes?
Well, still a father-son relationship.
Yes. Can you explain why?
Well, like further up, he said, Virgil said son to Dante, and Dante said father to Virgil.
Okay.
So Dante still trusts Virgil that he knows the way up.
So let's imagine you're a father, okay? And you take your son, who's like 10, on a hike to a mountain, right? What's your son doing all the time?
Are we there yet?
Yeah, are we there yet? Okay. And what's Dante doing? Like, are we there yet? Okay. And the father's like, oh, like, just focus on the mountaintop. Okay. So it's very much a father-son relationship. And it's almost like Dante has regressed, right? Because he's acting a lot more immaturely than before, right? Before it was one of respect, one of awe at Virgil. Now it's just like, are we there yet, man? This is so exhausting. And Virgil's like, come on, man, move it. Okay? All right, let's keep on going.
Line 71. Therefore, you can see, putting your mind to it attentively, how that same path which Phaethon drove so poorly must pass this mountain on the north, whereas it skirts Mount Zion on the southern side. I said, "My master, surely I have never, since my intelligence seemed lacking, seen as clearly as I now can comprehend that the mid-circle of the heavens motion, one of the sciences call it equator, which always lies between the sun and winter, as you explained, lies as far north of here as it lies southward of the site from which the Hebrews, looking toward the tropics, saw it. But if it please you, I should willingly learn just how far it is we still must journey. The slope climbs higher than my eyes can follow." And he to me, "This mountain's of such sort that climbing it is hardest at the start, but as we rise, the slope grows less unkind. Therefore, when this slope seems to you so gentle, then climbing farther up will be as restful as traveling downstream by boat. You will be where this pathway ends, and there you can expect to put your weariness to rest. I say no more, and this I know is truth.
Okay, so again, Donnie's just bitching throughout this, right? He's like, "Are we there yet? I'm so exhausted. Can we just rest?" And then Virgil's like, "Come on, we're almost there." Why? And I don't actually know the answer to this question. Why is Virgil and Donnie, why are they spending so much time on trying to geolocate where they are? Right? They're very explicit about where they are. Like, okay, we are the opposite end of Jerusalem. The stars are like this. Why would Donnie spend so much time trying to geolocate Mount Purgatory? And I don't actually know the answer. Yes.
To like be more accurate while he's writing the poem, because he's gonna like teach all of these to the people.
Yes.
You could know where heaven touches the earth, i.e., the peak of the mountain would be the closest place on earth to heaven.
Yeah, I understand that, but like Purgatory is made up, right? So I'm trying to figure out why he's trying to be so exact and detailed about where Mount Purgatory is. Yes.
Well, you're hiking, right? So try to memorize all the signs and where things are so that you don't get lost.
Okay, I understand that. Yes.
Is it just a metaphor for purgatory? Because purgatory is quite a meticulous place where you have to clean yourselves.
Right. But I'm trying to figure this out, okay? I'm trying to figure out why he's spending so much time being so exact and detailed about where Mount Purgatory is, what it looks like, where it is in relation to other places. Why would he? Again, I don't actually know the answer. I'm just asking you this question. Yes.
Maybe Dante just distrust Virgil. He's saying maybe Virgil tried to cheat on him, or.
Well, it's Virgil who's doing the talking. Yes.
Maybe Virgil's trying to remember it for later. When his task with Dante is done, he gets shoved back to limbo/hell, and he's trying just to remember for himself.
That's a very optimistic reading of Virgil, actually. Yes.
The way to measure things. So because it's about progress, you can only progress in what you measure. So they're looking at where they are, like to start with, and then progress with it.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Good. Right. So, maybe a possibility is like they're trying to give people a sense of time, so like their progress can be tracked. Okay, that's one really strong possibility. Yes. And I don't know the answer. I'm just like, what are possibilities here? Just use your imagination. Anyone else? Yes.
Well, maybe just for the reader, so he can imagine it as detailed as possible.
And why would that be important?
I find this to be a treasure map for imagination.
Right.
Because back to your point about Dante ushering in Renaissance, if you look at Renaissance paintings, there are lots of perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like if you want to imagine to the fullest, you need to give details, a lot of details.
Yes.
And this is like a treasure map to, hey, this is how you do it.
Yes.
And I guess that's why maybe occultists and, later people would find this enlightening, because literally this is a map to the ultimate treasures.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Like a hiker, you probably know the Japanese like Kamano Kodo, which is Shongye Gudao, which is one of the pilgrimage roads by UNESCO, saying that it's a pilgrimage. So you go through the mountains to, purify your soul and all that. The other one is the one, the route of San Diego de Compostela, which is on another trip to pilgrimage through the mountains and stuff. And so maybe in his idea that like this idea of purgatory, purging yourself as you hike or as you go on a journey itself, physically, metaphorically, it's a way to purify yourself, just like Muslims also go to the same.
Okay, so I think that Carol's point is very interesting. So let's drop some paintings. Okay, let's look at medieval European art, okay? And then we're going to contrast that with Renaissance art and see if we can spot the difference. Actually, it's actually pretty blatant, but we'll do it, okay? Medieval art, we'll look at some images, okay? Okay, so this is medieval art, guys, okay? All right? Do you guys see that? Just put it in your mind. Now we're going to do Renaissance art. And again, the difference is pretty stark. What's the difference, guys? Yes, go ahead. Yes, so space and time really matter here, yes?
Yeah, from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional.
Yes, right? It's pretty obvious, right? They put a lot of focus on space and time, on depth perception, right? Before it was 2D, now it's 3D. Anyone else?
It's a demonstration of imaginative power. To convey the force of divine imaginative power, you do have to have very deep knowledge about geography, but also imagination.
Yes. So let's do mathematics of Renaissance art. Let's see what happens if we do that. Mathematics of Renaissance art. Yeah. So they're using a lot of mathematics with Renaissance art, right? Maybe the Last Supper. Okay, this is the Divine Comedy. Okay. Well, I mean, this is yeah. Okay, but you guys see this, okay? There's a lot more mathematics in Renaissance art than there is in medieval art. In fact, there's really no mathematics in medieval art. But if you look at Renaissance art, the geometry really matters, the symmetry really matters, depth perception really matters, okay? And this started because of Dante. Dante is really concerned about mathematics. He's really concerned about trying to create as much detail as possible in his poetry so that it excites the imagination. Okay? And it makes us, yes?
And also pretty much every Renaissance painting is like a historical moment in time, and the medieval paintings were just like bishops and like just portraits, but this is like really, yeah, this really ignites the imagination. Like you can like imagine yourself sitting at that table or like,
right.
Yeah.
And why would it excite the imagination as opposed to medieval art? Yes?
Because you're grounding it in something more naturalistic and you're able to see yourself more. And I think the reason he does it in Purgatory is because you can kind of go on Purgatory a little bit while you're alive in real life.
Exactly. You understand, okay? Right? So you can actually imagine yourself taking a hike and looking at the stars. And then that draws you back to the Divine Comedy. And when you read Divine Comedy, you can also, as you read this, imagine yourself with Virgil and Dante climbing up Mount Purgatory. That's a power of detail and precision. Again, guys, this is really, it's obvious to us now, but this is it's literally watching a movie, yes?
But I really feel like Purgatory is really similar to just Earth in general, you know? Like, we have a sun, we have, you know, it's really like Earth-like, as opposed to Inferno.
Right, and he's trying to make it as Earth-like as possible, right? By geolocating it. It says, like, this is actually a real place on Earth, right? And so, again, we're not transitioning from the medieval period to the Renaissance period, and this is what sparks it because of its humanistic qualities, right? Its willingness to draw you into the story. Its realism so that you feel that Mount Purgatory is a real place. If it's a real place, then it gives you hope, right? Because before, you believed that there was only hell and heaven. And now, like, no, there's a purgatory place, and it's a transition into heaven. So even if you screwed up, as long as you're willing to repent, you will go to purgatory. And you'll be there for 1,000,000 years. You'll be there for 1,000 years. Who knows? But hey, if your family really loves you, you know, it won't be as bad. Okay? So it's almost incentivizing you to live life to the fullest, to live a life of love, to show kindness, generosity, and mercy to others, right? Okay? And again, this is opposite of the Inyat, right? Where again, you're not supposed to show mercy to your enemies. Where you're not supposed to like fall in love. You're just supposed to like obey the gods. Does that make sense, guys? All right. Let's keep on going.
97. And when his words were done, another voice nearby was heard to say, "Perhaps you will have need to sit before you reach that point." Hearing that voice, both of us turned around, and to the left we saw a massive boulder, which neither he nor I before had noticed. We made our way toward it and toward the people who lounged behind that boulder in the shade, as men beset by listlessness will rest. And one of them, who seemed to me exhausted, were sitting with his arms around his knees. Between his knees he kept his head bent down. "Oh, my sweet lord," I said, "look carefully at one who shows himself more languid than he would have been were laziness his sister." Then that shade turned toward us attentively, lifting his eyes but just above his thigh, and said, "Climb, then, if you're so vigorous." Then I knew who he was, and the distress that still was quickening my breath somewhat did not prevent my going to him. And when I had reached him, scarcely lifting up his head, he said, "And have you fathomed how the sun can drive his chariot on your left?" The slowness of his movements, his brief words, had stirred my lips a little toward a smile. Then I began. "From this time on, Belacqua, I need not grieve for you. But tell me, why do you sit here? Do you expect a guide, or have you fallen into your old ways?" And he, "Oh, brother, what's the use of climbing? God's angel, he who guards the gate, would not let me pass through to meet my punishment. Outside that gate, the skies must circle round as many times as they did when I lived, since I delayed good sighs until the end. Unless before then I am helped by prayer that rises from a heart that lives in grace, what use are other prayers ignored by heaven?" And now the poet climbed ahead before me and said, "It's time, see the meridian touched by the sun. Elsewhere along the ocean, night now has set its foot upon Morocco."
Okay, all right. So we will conclude today. A reminder: tomorrow morning we start at 9 o'clock exactly. Okay, try to come at 8:50. We have a very special guest. We're very honored to have him, Professor David Bromwich, who is studying professor of English at Yale. His mentor was Harold Bloom, of course. I did mention that. And he will come and talk to us about Macbeth. He's joining us live from New Haven. And then we will have a discussion about Shakespeare and Dante, how they're similar, how they're different. And it'll be a very interesting conversation. Yeah, it'll go on for about an hour, and then we'll continue reading Purgatory. And we'll try to do about 10, okay? We have like 3 days more. We have 3 days left, and we'll try to do 10, 10, 10, okay? So please review what we've learned. Any questions about today before we end? Any questions, guys? Ask one question, then we'll end, okay? Yes.
Very general question, but do you think open and free imagination is compatible with organizing a society? Because it seems like once a society reaches a certain amount of people and a level of organization, then you need to force people into imagining that your system works.
Yeah, that's a great question, okay? And quite honestly, if Dante were alive today, he could not possibly understand why we live the way we do, right? We live in cities of 10 million people. Beijing is like, what, 25 million people? But like no one knows each other. And like you're just like a little cog in the machine. And like Dante would be like, what's the point of this existence, right? What are you guys trying to accomplish with this sort of with existence? Back then in Italy, whatever the issues were, at least people knew each other, okay? And at least people had roots. At least people knew why they were living, and happiness had a purpose, right? You wanted your community to thrive. And now in our world, we're just focused all on just material acquisition. And as you point out, that's a result of mass society. Okay, once your society reaches a certain point, your society has to be organized a certain way. You lose your sense of community, you lose your sense of identity. You are just a empty soul. You're basically a slave, really. Okay, I mean, like I hate to say this, but like, are we not slaves? I mean, I like just the idea of like sending kids to school to learn to read and write so that they can go to university to get a useless degree so that they can go make useless money, right? I mean, like, what exactly is the point? All right. So, as you point out, once society reaches a certain number, it could be 1 million, it could be 2 million, who knows? Okay. But you're kind of stuck like this, and there's no way out of it because with this amount of people, you need bureaucracy, and you need hierarchy, and you need inequality in order to make the society function. There's really no way around it. But it's an interesting question, and it's something that I want to discuss at the end of this class, right? And the question then is, if Dante were to come today, first of all, how would he feel about us? And the answer is he'd be pretty disgusted. But also, what would Dante recommend that we do? Okay, what are some paths forward given the structure of society today? So thanks for the question, and we'll come back to it later on, okay?